Chapter 550. The flame wolf howled and lightning soared into the sky. In the blink of an eye, Feng Jixing's figure could no longer be seen on the plaza of Zetian Palace. All that could be seen was the raging wind and the soaring lightning around him. Everyone, including Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, had no choice but to retreat. Feng Jixing's cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds over the past 2 years. No one had ever seen him use his full strength. Good fellow. Luo Exin squinted her eyes. She was not intimidated by Feng Jixing's aura. The purple dragon martial spirit soared into the sky, like a divine dragon spiraling in the sky. Amidst the resplendent rays of light, traces of lightning soared into the sky. Like Feng Jixing, Luo Exin also cultivated the laws of lightning. However, Feng Jixing cultivated wind, lightning and fire while Luo Exin only cultivated the laws of lightning. Amidst the raging wind, a saber light swept over. Feng Jixing had already made his move, scorching golden sand. A strand of fiery saber chi rushed over. Before it even reached Luo Exin's face was already burning hot. Dragon lightning breakthrough. Luo Exin roared angrily. Her spear pierced out, bringing with it a strand of vast lightning energy. The spear light actually transformed into a dragon-shaped lightning bolt that tore apart the windstorm that Feng Jixing had condensed. Dang! When the blade of the spear collided with the wind cutter saber, Feng Jixing's face was filled with battle intent. Wielding the saber with both hands, he swept it forward, causing Luo Exin's spear to lose its aim. He raised his battle boots and kicked out with a combination of fire, lightning and wind. Desert gale. Good timing. Luo Exin actually laughed heartily. She suddenly raised her body and dodged Feng Jixing's sharp kick. Just as Feng Jixing's powerful kick flew past, Luo Exin flipped over and swept her leg toward her opponent's lower body. The power of the purple dragon was contained in her battle boots, shattering the stone tiles on the ground. The strength of this kick was definitely not weak. Feng Jixing leaped into the air, and the image of the purple electric flame wolf's head appeared on his blade. He then slashed down at Luo Exin from high above. Luo Exin stood up and slowly spread her legs apart. She lowered her center of gravity and raised her spear with both arms. This move had to be parried. Feng Jixing's attack was too fierce. Ping. The swords and spears created a shockwave that blew away the snow that had yet to be swept away. It also made a group of ministers retreat one after another. Each and every one of them could barely open their eyes. A scorching hot power revolved around the spear's body. Luo Exin endured the burning pain and struggled to thrust the spear into the sky. In an instant, the sky was filled with the phantom images of the spear, making it difficult to distinguish the real from the fake. Unable to land on the ground, Feng Jixing could only rely on his battle flames to balance himself. He held his saber in front of his chest and unleashed his ultimate technique, blade dance. Ding ding dang dang dang, sounds rang out in the air. The wind cutter saber's blade radiance continued to descend onto the ground, leaving terrifying blade scars on the ground. Most of the blade chi landed on Luo Exin's battle armor, and the scales condensed by the purple dragon martial soul were being disintegrated inch by inch. At the same time, the spear radiance that was imbued with the purple dragon's light also struck Feng Jixing's body. Buzz buzz buzz. A series of Buddhist chants swept across the earth. The protective aura around Feng Jixing was extremely dense, and Luo Exin's determined spear projections were unable to penetrate even an inch into it. What kind of aura is this? Instead, it was Luo Exin's arms that felt numb from the shock. He was filled with suspicions as he concentrated all his strength on the spearhead and struck towards Feng Jixing's chest. Bam! The rebound force from the protective aura sent Luo Exin flying, and Feng Jixing was finally able to land on the ground. He gathered his battle flames again and charged at his opponent with a roar. The power of his saber soared into the sky and he slashed out with his saber, creating a storm. Heaven-devouring demonic saber. A chill ran down Luo Exin's spine and he actually felt timid. That's right, he had a premonition that he was going to lose, but he couldn't lose face here. Ha! Luo Exin stabbed his spear into the ground and raised his palms. A purple dragon poured into his body, and his battle flames formed a shield. He was actually using his palms to block Feng Jixing's saber projections. Bam! The floor tiles were torn to shreds and a third of the plaza was destroyed in an instant. Luo Exin stood where he was, looking battered and exhausted. The soft armor on his body had been sliced to pieces by the blade light, revealing the powerful muscles of his upper body. Although it was winter, his body was covered in sweat and steam rose from his body. There was even a hint of excitement on his face. It seemed like Feng Jixing's heaven-devouring demonic saber wasn't that strong. Come on, Feng Jixing. Show me what you've got. Luo Exin laughed loudly, and the purple dragon martial spirit around him roared endlessly. The more he fought, the more courageous he became. Feng Jixing's arm that was holding the saber was trembling slightly, and his face was ashen. The only reason he couldn't attack in a hurry was because of his stamina. His stamina was running out and he couldn't use the king's battle flames and the protective aura of the diamond. General Feng, what's wrong? Sidu Shui couldn't help but ask. I'm fine. Feng Jixing waved his hand as he complained in his heart. If I'm full, I'll beat the crap out of you. But I'm so hungry. There was no other way. For the sake of the imperial army and the empire's reputation, he had to fight. With a wave of his saber, Feng Jixing pounced forward again, and a storm surged into the sky as he clashed with Luo Exin. In the end, the two of them fought back and forth. After exchanging over 100 moves, they were still evenly matched. However, those with slightly higher cultivations could feel that Feng Jixing's domain aura was gradually decreasing. On the contrary, Luo Exion's aura was getting stronger and stronger, showing signs of surpassing Feng Jixing's. Dang! When the saber and spear collided, Feng Jixing's arm went numb and he couldn't muster any strength. The wind cutter saber would have flown out of his hand. Damn it! Feng Jixing cursed as he retreated dozens of meters, and he used the saber as a support to stabilize himself. He raised his palm towards Luo Exin and shouted, "Stop! I'm done! I'm done!" Lightning danced around Luo Exin and she said with a smile, "The winner hasn't been decided yet. Why is General Feng stopping?" Feng Jixing's face was pale and he said, "Wait until I'm full." So General Feng admitted defeat? I didn't admit defeat. Feng Jixing shouted in a low voice. Su Muyun gently stroked his beard and said with a smile, "Since General Feng didn't admit defeat, then let's fight again until a winner is decided." Feng Jixing was infuriated. At this moment Qin Yin stepped onto the pockmarked battlefield and said, "Forget it. Since Commander Feng has lost, so be it. It's just a loss for today." She could also see that Feng Jixing was not in his best condition. If it was Feng Jixing in the past, it would be hard to predict the outcome. Even if he couldn't beat Luo Exin, he would definitely not lose. Qin Yin knew Feng Jixing's strength too well. "So I won?" Luo Exin couldn't help laughing. "Father, did you see that? I defeated the head of the 4 heroes of Lanyan, Feng Jixing." The 4 heroes of Lanyan are not as powerful as I thought." Qin Yin was very angry when she heard that. "What did you say?" Qin Yen was already carrying his iron spear and preparing to go into battle. Right at this time, a fiery red figure suddenly flew over, sticking close to the ground. Before Luo Exin could react, he was already looking at him at close range. It was Xianxia. She had already entered the 9-tailed transformation state. 9 flame tails danced in the air behind her and the raging flames rose sharply. She raised her right hand backward and a golden mark flowed in her palm. She said with a slight smile, "Do you dare to take one of my moves?" Luo Exin was startled by this beautiful demon fox girl in front of him. But seeing that the flames lingering around her body were actually also King's battle flames, he was even more shocked for a moment. He hurriedly raised both palms, forming a round shield, assuming a defensive posture and said in a low voice, "Do you think I'm scared of you?" 10th level Cosmic Seal. Tang Xiaoxi smiled sweetly. Ping. The Cosmic Seal's radiance rose sharply, and the piercingly cold energy instantly broke through Luo Exion's protective aura. His body was blasted away from his original spot like a falling leaf, rolling into a pile of rubble. If it wasn't for Tang Xiaoxi temporarily restraining more than 70% of her power, Luo Exin would probably have died under this attack. Princess Shi. Su Muyun turned pale with fright. Tang Xiaoxi slowly returned to her human form, waved her hand to disperse the power of the Fire God Seal and said with a smile, "You can't even take one of my moves. What qualifications do you have to mock the wind, rain, thunder and lightning?" Luo Exin slowly crawled up from the mess and his face was pale. I only lost to you because I exhausted a lot of energy. When I recover my strength I will naturally challenge you again. However, Qin Yin raised her eyebrows. Insolence. Xiaoxi is the Empire's princess. Luo Exin, you don't have any title yet. If you say such insolent words again, don't blame me for not giving grandfather face. Su Muyun also frowned and said, Luo Exin, come to foster father's side. Don't speak nonsense anymore. Yes. Luo Exin walked over with his spear in a sorry state. Although defeating Feng Jixing was enough to make him famous, Tang Xiaoxi took the opportunity to defeat him. The reputation that he had painstakingly won was inevitably going to be greatly reduced. Su Muyun cupped his fists and said, Your Highness, Luo Exin has been cultivating in the mountains for decades and has not experienced the world. I hope that Your Highness can forgive him for his disrespect. However, it is true that Luo Exin possesses peerless martial arts and is loyal to the Empire. Therefore, I hope that Your Highness can put him in an important position. Yes, I know. Grandfather, what kind of title do you hope to give to Luo Exin? Su Muyun said, I want to let Luo Exin lead the Iron Blade Army in Yunzhong Province, starting from the rank of Chiliarch. When he has a certain level of commanding ability, I will hand over the Iron Blade Army to him. After all, grandfather is old and can no longer lead thousands of troops. If Your Highness doesn't mind, please bestow the title of Marquis to my godson. Qin Yin was stunned. Situ Sin, who was not far away, laughed and said, Your Highness, do you know how long it took for Commander Lin Muyu to rise from a low-class noble to Marquis Yunling? It took a full 4 years, and he used the achievement of drowning 70,000 armored demons in exchange for the title of Marquis Yunling. Moreover, he is the godson of the former emperor. May I ask? Luo Exin has not made any contributions, so what right does he have to be conferred the title of Marquis? Su Muyun's face instantly fell. Qin Yin smiled and walked forward. She held Su Muyun's arm and said sweetly, Grandfather, let's talk about conferring the title of Marquis in the future. Since Luo Exin has already joined the Empire's army, there will be plenty of opportunities for him to make contributions in the future. For now, let's give him the position of Chiliarch and the status of a 4th-class noble. What do you think, Grandfather? Since the Empress had given him a way out, Su Muyun naturally wouldn't refuse. He smiled and said, Yes, I will listen to Your Highness's arrangements. Chapter 551. In the early morning of the dragon-seeking forest, snow filled the sky by the Cloud Dragon Lake. The temperature was getting colder and colder, so much so that many soldiers had already fallen ill from the cold. Smoke rose from the chimneys of the tents by the lake, and the people of the spiritual fire department were boiling medicinal soup to ward off the cold. Outside the tent, a group of flaming black tortoises were squeaking and crawling on the snowy ground. They were like large dogs and they would spit out mouthfuls of flames as a show of force. These were all tamed flaming black tortoises. Although they had already fused with the divine temple staff of the beast-taming department, the degree of fusion was not very high, and they still maintained an extremely violent temperament. Rustle, rustle. Snowflakes danced in the air and landed on her shoulder armor. Lin Muyu leaned on her astral sword and looked at the group of blazing mystic tortoises. She frowned and asked, What's wrong with them? Wei Chou crossed his arms and said, They're hungry. These flaming black tortoises were planning to sleep for the entire winter, but we woke them up. That's why they're complaining that they're hungry. Milord, we need to find food for these flaming black tortoises. Otherwise, I suspect they'll break free and become wild spiritual beasts again. Lin Muyu nodded. Looking at the frenzied flaming black tortoises, it was indeed very likely that they would break free and betray the alliance. They had to think of a solution as soon as possible. However, all the bloodthirsty tigers within a radius of several dozen kilometers had been killed. Furthermore, ferocious beasts roamed the area. Wild boars, rabbits, badgers and muntjac which did not have strong offensive power would not appear. The flaming black tortoises were not to be trifled with. They wanted to eat meat, so food would be a huge problem. After a quick count, the Longdan army camp had already tamed 97 flaming black tortoises. They were only 3 away from 100 and they were almost done. In order to prepare for future losses in the war, it would be best to capture a few more. It seemed like they would have to spend another day by the Cloud Dragon Lake before returning to Longyan City. Furthermore, this weather, Lin Muyu looked up at the heavy snow flying all over the sky and couldn't help sighing. It was estimated that the heavy snow had blocked the mountain. It was really difficult to go back to Lanyan City. Now she needed to consider the fodder for the horses and the food for the winter. Bai Yin quietly appeared beside him and said, "Commander, even if we want to pass the winter, we shouldn't do it by the Cloud Dragon Lake. There's a shortage of food here. We should enter the mountains and find a place to hide for the winter. Then we can search for provisions and food for the winter. Let's catch 100 blazing black tortoises first." Yes. After the sky was completely bright, the team set off. As usual, Lin Muyu used the Spirit Meridian technique to find the habitat of the blazing black tortoises. She dug out the hibernating blazing black tortoises and tamed them. While a group of soldiers from the Longdan army camp were digging with shovels, Wei Chou had already led a group of people to break the ice of the shallow waters of the Cloud Dragon Lake. They started to break the ice and catch fish to feed the captured blazing black tortoises. These black tortoises had a huge appetite. In just 3 days they had almost finished all the meat they had brought. The people from the Divine Temple naturally didn't fish like fishermen. Wei Chou held a longbow in his hand and stepped into the ice-cold lake with his combat boots. He closed his eyes and felt the movement of the fish in the mud. He tied a string to the tail of the arrow and pulled back a fat fish with every arrow he shot. Other than Wei Chou, there were even more people stabbing in the water with their spears and harvesting a lot. The hibernating fish were thrown onto the snowy ground, causing a group of blazing black tortoises to fight over them. However, not long after, there was a sudden howl. A soldier from the Longdan army camp was suddenly dragged into the water by something. Blood surged in the lake amidst the howl, and there were sounds of ice breaking in the distance. "There's something under the water." Wei Chou turned pale with fright. He hurriedly drew his longbow and shouted, "Everyone come ashore! Everyone come ashore!" Hiss hiss. A long hissing sound came from the lake. Amidst the loud bangs, a half-meter thick layer of ice shattered, and a huge creature crawled out of the water. Its body was covered in indigo scales, and it had a ferocious head swaying in the air. On the other hand, it had 8 long and sharp blade-like arms. The blade-like arms were stained with the clothes of the dead soldiers of the Valiant Dragon Battalion. This was none other than a 4,500-year-old frost-armored horned dragon. Bastard! Wei Chou was enraged. He raised his hand and shot an arrow. The arrow pierced through one of the frost-armored horned dragon's arms with a paw. Blue blood gushed out. Unfortunately, it couldn't seriously injure the frost-armored horned dragon. The power of an arrow was too insignificant for a huge creature like the frost-armored horned dragon. Frost-armored horned dragon? Lin Muyu was taken aback as well. She hurriedly flew over and suppressed the frost-armored horned dragon's violence with her Saint Realm aura. She then shouted, "Wei Chou, don't kill it yet. Someone, come and try to tame this frost-armored horned dragon." As she spoke, the golden gourd vines rose from the shallow mud and bound the frost-armored horned dragon's head and 8 lethal arms. The frost-armored horned dragon was the overlord of the water and had a violent temperament to begin with. It roared madly and kicked its 4 legs in the water with all its might. But how could it break free from the restraints of a holy king like Lin Muyu? "Let me do it." Wei Chou walked forward with a frosty expression. He abruptly smashed his fist into the frost-armored horned dragon's ugly skull, venting its anger at the fact that it had killed its subordinate. Wei Chou couldn't help but feel apprehensive when he felt the intense pain from his fist. The frost armor on the frost-armored horned dragon's body was indeed extremely hard. No wonder the white drill arrow was unable to cause any damage to it. Slowly opening his palm, Wei Chou activated the psychic art. He quietly tried to communicate with the frost-armored horned dragon. After a few seconds, his Yi was filled with ferocious waves. Wei Chou trembled all over. He could feel the hunger, violence, and fear of the frost-armored horned dragon. Humans were afraid of the frost-armored horned dragon, but the frost-armored horned dragon was equally afraid of the humans who traveled freely on land. It was precisely because of this that the frost-armored horned dragon would recklessly attack humans. After nearly a minute, the frost-armored horned dragon finally calmed down. Its head drooped beside Wei Chou's shoulder and its blue eyes blinked as it looked at Wei Chou, Lin Muyu, and the others. The psychic art was a success. The frost-armored horned dragon and Wei Chou were now telepathically connected. In its eyes, Lin Muyu and the others were no longer a threat. That's enough, my lord, Wei Chou said after taking a deep breath. Lin Muyu waved her hand and the golden gourd vines turned into martial spirit energy and dissipated in the air. The huge frost-armored horned dragon wriggled its 4 sturdy legs and followed Wei Chou onto the land. Even though it was moving very slowly, it had proven that the frost-armored horned dragon could survive on land. It was just that its combat strength was greatly reduced. This was the first time anyone had seen a complete frost-armored horned dragon. It had a long tail behind its body that was covered with caudal fins. These caudal fins helped it swim quickly in the water. Its abdomen and mouth were all joined together like a huge disc. 9 limbs were erected on top of the disc. One was its neck and head, while the other 8 were blades that were as hard and sharp as steel. Bai Yin tightened his cloak to ward off the cold and said, "My lord, this frost-armored horned dragon has very limited combat strength on land. With its slow speed, I suspect that it might not even be a match for an armored demon in a one-on-one fight." Lin Muyu shot a glance at the frost-armored horned dragon and said, "Its true battlefield is underwater. Bai Yin, you haven't experienced the Battle of the Padeo River, so you don't know that the demon race has an army called the Mastiffs. The demon race's navy is much stronger than ours. If we can tame a navy made up of frost-armored horned dragons, then we won't have to fear the Mastiffs anymore." "Yes, my lord. I admire your foresight." After Wei Chou's soul fused with the first frost-armored horned dragon, it wasn't difficult to capture others. Using the signal emitted by the first frost-armored horned dragon, one after another frost-armored horned dragons appeared on land. They were captured and tamed one by one. After an entire day, Lin Muyu's expeditionary force captured over 20 blazing black tortoises and 50 frost-armored horned dragons. Mission accomplished. However, the frost-armored horned dragon was also a carnivore, and its appetite was enormous. This made food even more of a problem. After nightfall, Wei Chou guarded the camp while Lin Muyu led 100 people out on horseback to hunt. It wasn't until late at night that the sound of hooves could be heard from the shore of the Cloud Dragon Lake. The hunting party had returned. The warhorses dragged the carcasses of wolves, wild boars and chamois. Wei Chou beamed at the sight. "That's great. My lord, this food is enough for us to eat for 2 days." Lin Muyu couldn't bring herself to smile. She brushed off the snow on her shoulders and said, "We've brought back all the prey within a 30-kilometer radius. We'll be leaving the Cloud Dragon Lake tomorrow morning. We're almost done with all the food here." "Yes." The next day the snow finally lessened. Early in the morning, after eating their fill, the 500-strong party slowly left the Cloud Dragon Lake. They brought along 120 blazing black tortoises and 50 frost-armored horned dragons. This was a fruitful trip. The frost-armored horned dragons moved very slowly on land. Their 4 legs crawled on the ground, but their tails swayed back and forth as if they were swimming in the water. Looked very stupid, but there was nothing they could do. They could only walk at their own pace. It was already not bad if they could cover 100 kilometers in a day. They moved slowly like this. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. The party arrived at the mountain range at the edge of the dragon-seeking forest. However, the snow had already sealed off the path they came from. Nearly 5 meters of snow blocked the 5-kilometer-long valley, making it impossible for the party to advance any further. "Are we really going to wait for spring to come in the dragon-seeking forest?" Wei Chou said helplessly. Bai Yin said, "Perhaps. Otherwise, what else can we do? Unless the gods descend to the world and bring spring back to all living things." "Bring spring back to all living things." Lin Muyu remained silent. "My lord, do you have a solution?" Wei Chou asked. Lin Muyu nodded happily. "Bai Yin's words have reminded me. Let's set up camp here tonight. We can return to Lanyan City after the snow melts tomorrow morning." "Why would the snow melt?" Wei Chou raised his head to look at the fine snow drifting in the air. It was freezing cold all around him. He smiled bitterly and said, "I'll thank the heavens if the snow doesn't get thicker and thicker." At that moment, Lin Muyu took out a steel sword from her cosmos sack. With a light flick of her wrist, she activated it. Whoosh! An indigo ray of light shot into the sky. The energy of the world had already been activated. It was the medium-quality heavenly tome of the law of life that Lin Muyu had obtained from killing the ghost general in the forest of heavenly tome monoliths. With the activation of the heavenly tome, a ripple swept through the entire valley. The temperature rapidly rose and the sound of snow melting could be heard. Wei Chou, Bai Yin and the others were all dumbfounded. None of them could say a word. Chapter 552. Yunzhong Province. The sound of horses' hooves echoed in the valley. This was the garrison of the Yunzhong Province's Iron Blade Army, but it was also very close to Cangnan Province's Wugu City. As the sun rose, the morning light shone on the cavalryman's armor, giving off a mesmerizing glow. There were 4 people standing on the platform. They were Su Muyun, Su Yu, Su Long and Luo Exin, who had just joined the Iron Blade Army. At this time, Luo Exin was wearing a silver robe that was specially made. His white robe was fluttering in the wind, and he was holding an iron spear in his hand. This is the Iron Blade Army. Su Muyun squinted his eyes and said, one of the most elite cavalrymen in the empire. The Iron Blade Army still maintains a formation of 50,000 cavalrymen and 70,000 infantrymen. In terms of numbers, they are one of the best in the empire. Ayu has improved the weapons and shields used by the Iron Blade Army many times in the past 2 years to increase their fighting power. But the Iron Blade Army is no longer the strongest army in the empire. Luo Exin was stunned. Such a strong Iron Blade Army is still not the strongest in the empire? Then who is? Currently, the publicly acknowledged strongest army in the empire is Lin Muyu's Valiant Dragon Army. There are a total of 60,000 of them, and their equipment is second to none in the continent. Their military strength is also witnessed by everyone. Su Yu smiled faintly and said, the Brave Dragon Battalion defeated the First Demon Legion at the Wildfire Plains with almost negligible losses, forcing the First Demon Commander Qian Feng to return in defeat. It is precisely because of this that the Brave Dragon Battalion is the legion that the Empress trusts the most. Luo Xian's eyes were full of fighting spirit. Father, don't worry. I will definitely follow Sister Su Yu and Uncle Long to learn the art of war. I will make the Iron Blade Army the strongest army in the world, surpassing the Longdan Army camp. Good. Su Muyun nodded and smiled. This is what I wanted to hear. Now I will give you your first order. Luo Exin immediately cupped his hands. Father, please give me your order. I will give you 5,000 cavalrymen. You must take back a black gold mine from a group of bandits before sunset. Mountain Obsidian Gold Mine. Luo Exin was stunned. I have seen the map. Qishan belongs to the territory of Cangnan Province. It is under the jurisdiction of the governor of Wugu City, Su Jiantao, and Su Jiantao is Lin Muyu's man. That's right. Su Muyun said, there are very few profound gold mines within the empire's borders, and most of them are mined privately. Mount Qi is located at the border between Cangnan Province and Yunzhong Province, and its sovereignty has always been unclear. Furthermore, Su Jiantao has too few troops under his command, so he sent a group of less than 2,000 mercenaries to mine at Mount Qi. Since that's the case, we'll just treat this group of mercenaries as bandits and eliminate them, and take the Mount Qi's profound gold mine for ourselves. Yes, I understand. The sun had completely risen above the horizon and shone on Su Muyun and Su Yu's faces. Su Yu was slightly displeased after hearing Su Muyun's words. She waited until Luo Exin rode away before saying, Father, you is Xiao Yin's man. Us making such a big fuss is no different from provoking him. Provoking? Su Muyun looked at his daughter indifferently and said, how many people from the Su family are still being used by His Highness in the Zetian Palace? If we don't consolidate our strength, I'm afraid that Tang Lon will be able to quietly destroy our Yunzhong province without a trace before Xiao Yin makes a move. The profound gold mine is extremely important to any power. In the future, whoever controls the heavenly book will have great power. Su Yu wanted to say something but stopped herself. Helplessness was written all over her charming face. 3 days later, after tossing and turning, Lin Muyu's 500 men finally returned to Lanyan City. Situ Sin and Situ Shui led 5,000 men from the Longdan army camp out of the city to welcome them. When they saw a group of frost-armored dragons and blazing black tortoises, they were immediately shocked. Commander, is this the legendary frost-armored dragon? Situ Sin held the hilt of his sword and looked at Wei Chao's spirit pet with caution. Huff. The frost-armored dragon seemed to have sensed Situ Sen's hostility. It immediately moved its head over and spat out a frosty breath at Situ Sen's face. Streaks of ice fell down his face. Immediately, Situ Sen pulled out his sword and said angrily, Lightning throwing Lu Mao, you bastard, how dare you spit at me? Wei Chou glared and said, General Sin, this is my spirit pet. Don't provoke it. Situ Sin laughed and put his arm around Wei Chou's shoulder. He said, Ah Chou, do you have any extra frost armor dragons? Why don't you give one to me and I'll treat you to a drink? Wei Chou widened his eyes and said, My name is Wei Chou, not Ah Chou. What's the difference? We shouldn't haggle over every penny. Our lives are too tiring. Ah Chou, I'll treat you to 3 drinks in exchange for a frost armored dragon. If you want to catch one, go ahead. Situ Shui giggled at the side. She didn't care about Situ Sin and Wei Chou's nonsense. She rode to Lin Muyu's side and said with a respectful smile, Commander, you've worked hard. General Shui has also worked hard in training the soldiers, Lin Muyu said with a smile. Situ Shui looked at the group of spirit pets behind her and said, If so many behemoths were to enter Lanyan City, I'm afraid that the common people would be frightened. Milord, do you really want to bring these frost-armored dragons into the imperial capital? I'm afraid that even the imperial army guarding the city would not agree to it. Of course not. Lin Muyu smiled and said, I've already thought about it. The frost-armored dragons can't leave the water for too long. Otherwise they will lose their vitality. Therefore, General Shui, please send people to dig a lake beside the encampment outside the Longdan army camp. Let's call it the Dragon Pond. It will be the habitat of the frost-armored dragons. In the future, if we have more aquatic spirit pets, we can also raise them in the Dragon Pond. Yes, Your Majesty. Situ Shui smiled and said, With so many spirit pets, I'm afraid we'll need a lot of food. Do you need me to take care of this? That would be best. Yes. Situ Shui held the reins and thought for a moment. Then she said, There's one thing that I don't know if I should tell you, Your Majesty. Say it. What is it? Lin Muyu asked in surprise. Situ Shui said, Recently Cloud King Su Muyun adopted a son called Luo Exin. His cultivation is at the Holy King realm. He consecutively defeated Zhang Wei, my brother Situ Sin, and Commander Feng Jixing in Zetian Palace. He defeated Big Brother Feng? Lin Muyu was slightly stunned. That's impossible. Big Brother Feng's cultivation is very pure. Even if his opponent is at the Holy King realm, he might not be able to defeat him, right? Maybe it's because General Feng didn't eat his fill that day. Situ Shui's expression turned cold. Then she said, This Luo Exin was appointed as the deputy commander of the Steel Blade Army by Su Muyun. 3 days ago he led 5,000 soldiers of the Steel Blade Army to seize the profound gold mine on Mountain Qi and killed all the 2,000 mercenaries that Su Jiantao hired to guard the mine. Su Jiantao was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Now, this mountain is guarded by 3,000 soldiers of the Steel Blade Army. The Mountain Qi profound gold mine was lost? Lin Muyu was burning with anger. Her fists were surrounded by King's fighting flame. She said, Where did this Luo Exin come from? How dare he be so bold? What is Su Muyun thinking? Situ Shui said, In the territory of the empire there was no Mountain Qi at all. This Mountain Qi is actually shared by Yunzhong Province and Songnan Province. In order to save the manpower of the Longdan army camp, Su Jiantao did not send the Longdan army camp to Mountain Qi. He only hired a group of mercenaries to guard the mountain. This gave Su Muyun an excuse. He claimed that he had wiped out the mountain bandits that occupied the mine. A day ago he asked His Highness for a decree to directly transfer Mountain Qi to Yunzhong Province. We suffered a loss for nothing. As she said this, Situ Shui paused. Her beautiful eyes were filled with anger. Then she said, Luo Exion's strength is very strong. He has repeatedly challenged the generals in the empire. Except for Xiang Yu, the Marquis of Pingnan, he has challenged almost all the strong generals in the empire. What about Big Brother Feng? Him. Situ Jin could not help but laugh. General Feng went to the Yunzhong Palace to challenge Luo Exin after he was full. However, Luo Exin closed the door and refused to fight. He avoided General Feng's challenge time and time again. I heard that there are rumors in the empire that Luo Exin is already the strongest in the empire. Strongest in the empire? Lin Muyu laughed. With Chu and Qin Han around, who does he think he is? Are you going to the Yunzhong Palace to challenge Luo Exin? There's no need. Lin Muyu said, Once the news of my return to Lanyan City spreads, Luo Exin will definitely take the initiative to find me. Only by defeating me can he really be the strongest. Yes. After entering Zetian Palace to hand in the order and having dinner with Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, Lin Muyu brought the 200 staff members of the Holy Palace back to the Holy Palace to hand in the order. The mighty group of people attracted the attention of the people on Tongtian Street. The Holy Palace was brightly lit. Guyang held a scroll in his hand and was reading a section of a martial art mental cultivation method. Xianyuanhong sat at the side with his eyes closed in an elderly manner. There was a hint of a leisurely smile on his lips. Lin Muyu pays her respects to the great deacon. Greetings to Deacon Guyang. Oh, you's back. Xianyuanhong stood up and glanced at Lin Muyu and the others. He smiled. It seems that Yu's cultivation has improved after this trip. It's all right. Lin Muyu smiled modestly. She said to Xianyuanhong, Great Deacon, I have something to discuss with you and Deacon Guyang alone. Oh, then come to the side palace. Yes. When there were only 3 people in the side palace, Lin Muyu took out the scroll she had written and said, Great Deacon, please take a look and see if this mental cultivation method is feasible. Xianyuanhong received the scroll doubtfully. As he read it, the doubt on his face gradually dissipated and was replaced by ecstasy. He raised his head and asked, Did you write this mental cultivation method? How mysterious. Lin Muyu answered honestly, This is the remnant scroll of the forging dragon bone that Elder Chu once gave me. I've modified and simplified it to become this. It's quite effective in cleansing the meridians and marrow. If Great Deacon thinks that it's feasible, this mental cultivation technique can be used as a cultivation technique in the Holy Sanctum. Any Silver Star sparring master or instructor can practice it. Good. Xianyuanhong handed the scroll to Guyang as if he had received a treasure. At this moment, a Holy Palace guard suddenly rushed in. He seemed to be in a sorry state. He said, Great Deacon, someone wants to challenge Lady Lin Muyu in the Holy Palace. He claims to be Luo Exen from the Cloud King residence. So fast. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Alright, it's time for me to see this Luo Exen. Chapter 553. Torches lit up the main road in front of the Divine Temple. More than a dozen Divine Temple guards had already drawn their swords and sabers and were coldly facing the outside. Outside the hall, torches flickered. The guards of the Cloud Mansion were dressed in martial attire and were guarding the perimeter. Luo Exen was clad in silver armor and holding a spear. Her eyes were filled with arrogance as she said in a clear voice, Commander Yu, please come out and teach me. As a deacon, although Zhen Feng had lost his cultivation due to his Sea of Qi being destroyed, he still held a long sword and said, The Divine Temple is a place for people who cultivate their hearts and virtue, not a place for fighting. Lin Muyu is the Marquis of Yunling and is not someone you can challenge as you please. Luo Exen, you should go back and be a deputy Chili Arch. Luo Exen said with a cold face, Zhen Feng, this is none of your business. Go away. I heard that you were an expert in the past, but now that your Sea of Qi has been destroyed, you have become a useless person. I don't want to fight with you. Zhen Feng trembled with anger, but there was nothing he could do. A group of people from the Divine Temple were also filled with righteous indignation. Many of them almost cursed out loud, but because of the Cloud Mansion's reputation no one said anything. After all, Su Muyun's influence in Lanyan City and Yunzhong Province was too great. He was not someone ordinary people could afford to offend. The sound of footsteps came from the main hall. A few Gold Star instructors were holding torches to clear the way. Xianyuanhong and Guyang, the 2 respected elders, were walking in front. Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, Bai Yin and the others followed behind. Luo Exen recognized Xianyuanhong and immediately cupped her fists and said, Greetings, Great Deacon. Xianyuanhong nodded. Young General Luo Exen, why have you come to my Divine Temple? To meet Lin Muyu. Luo Exion's lips curled up. If I don't defeat Lin Muyu, I won't be the number 1 among the younger generation in Lanyan City. Xianyuanhong laughed. If you get the number 1, what do you plan to do next? Luo Exen was startled. I don't know and I don't care. I want to be the number 1 in Lanyan City and the Empire. Only then will I be worthy of my father's grace. Saying so, Luo Exion's eyes fell on Lin Muyu. As a Saint King Realm Master, he could feel Lin Muyu's powerful aura and pointed his spear directly at Lin Muyu. Commander Yu, as the second of Lanyan's 4 heroes, don't you dare accept this Luo Exion's challenge? Lin Muyu stepped forward and stood majestically in front of Luo Exin. Her eyes were filled with disdain as she smiled and said, I heard that a few days ago you led your men to seize Mount Qi of Songnan province? Luo Mu Lin Luo. So what if I know? So what if I don't? Luo Exin laughed coldly. Lin Muyu's smile widened. She raised a finger. If you don't know, I'll beat you until you can't get out of bed for 3 days. If you know and still attack my territory, I'll beat you until you can't get out of bed for half a month. Impudent. Luo Exin gritted her teeth, her aura suddenly increased by a large margin. Her purple dragon martial spirit let out a roar and surrounded the spear. Pointing the spear at Lin Muyu, she said, Do you dare to compete with me? Lin Muyu turned around and looked at Xianyuan Hong respectfully. What do you think, head deacon? Xianyuan Hong stroked his white beard and laughed. Stopping a war with a fight is one of the virtues of martial arts. However, I only have one thing to say to you. Please speak, head deacon. If you want to fight, go outside. Yes. Lin Muyu cheerfully turned around and pulled out the star's sword from her back. She smiled and said, Luo Exin, let's go out and fight. Don't damage the Divine Sanctum's things. The Divine Sanctum isn't as rich as the Cloud King residence. As you wish. Wei Chou raised the demon-devouring bow and said with a cold expression, Longdan Army Camp, clear the streets in front of the Holy Temple and make it a battlefield for the Lord Commander. Send out troops and forbid anyone from interfering in this duel. In an instant, hundreds of Longdan Army Camp's elite soldiers rushed out and formed a semicircle outside the Holy Temple. They faced Luo Xian's men from a distance. However, Luo Xian's men were the Cloud Palace's guards. They were obviously not as elite as the experienced Longdan Army Camp's elites. In terms of experience, this group of people had followed Lin Muyu from Mozong Pass in Earthstar Province to the Steel Wall in the battle in Wildfire Plains. They had experienced so much that they were no longer afraid of death. However, the people from the Cloud Palace were different. Most of them came from Cloud Province and had not experienced many battles with the demon race and Iha Kingdom. If they had, most of them had avoided battles with the defeated crowd. At this moment, the sound of hooves could be heard from afar. It was the cavalry of the valiant Dragon Legion. There were more than 1,000 of them. Under the illumination of the torches, Situ Sin and Situ Shui dismounted from their horses. They rushed over as soon as they received the news. As expected, they were in time for the duel. Situ Shui stood at the side and asked with a smile, Commander, are you full? Lin Muyu knew that this was Feng Jixing's joke. She could not help but laugh and patted her stomach. His Highness set up a banquet at Zetian Palace. I'm very full. Don't worry, my duel with Luo Exin will not last more than 10 moves. Luo Exin was stunned and could not help but fly into a rage. Lin Muyu, aren't you looking down on me too much? Do you think you are invincible just because you defeated some small fries in Lanyan City? Today I, Luo Exin, will let you know that there is always someone better than you. This sentence is for you. Lin Muyu smiled faintly. She waved the stellar sword in her hand and said, Luo Exa, are you ready? If you are, I will make my move. I still have a lot of things to do and have no time to waste with you. Okay, then let's end this quickly. Luo Exin bellowed in a low voice. His purple dragon martial spirit roared towards the sky, summoning lightning from the 9 heavens to descend upon Luo Xian's body. The suppressive might of the domain also spread out, forcing the crowd of spectators to take a few steps back. The stone tiles on the ground shattered under the influence of the lightning. It was a shocking scene. Luo Xian's body was enveloped by the lightning, growling in a low voice. He wanted to raise his strength to 100% before fighting Lin Muyu. However, Lin Muyu did not use much of her battle flame to fight against the domain. Instead, she held her stellar sword tightly and charged into the domain that Luo Exin had activated with her king's battle flame. Starlight suddenly shone brightly as Lin Muyu slashed at Luo Xian's chest cleanly. The starlight was unusually bright. The first strike of the stellar technique. First appearance of starlight. However, Lin Muyu's first appearance of starlight was completely different from Situ Sen's. It was faster and fiercer, and the power was abnormally concentrated. Almost all the star power was gathered on the sword's edge. Luo Exin had never met an opponent like this before. She did not wait for him to finish raising his chi. Moreover, her speed was too decisive. When Luo Xian's iron spear was in front of his chest, the stellar sword had already fallen. Bang! Luo Xian's face turned pale with fright when he heard the deafening screech. The spear was being eroded by the astral power, which almost made him lose his grip on the spear. The next moment, the power of the initial appearance of the astral aura exploded. Luo Xian and his spear were pushed back nearly 5 meters. The ground was full of traces of the astral power. What kind of disparity in strength was this, forcing him back with a single sword strike? Bible. This is absolutely impossible. Luo Xian's mind was already in a mess. There was at least a 2-centimeter cut on the handle of the iron spear. If Lin Muyu attacked this part of the spear again, the iron spear would probably be cut in half. Again. Luo Xian shouted, and the purple dragon flew around him at high speed. He raised his long spear and his body was wrapped in thick lightning. When he was less than 3 meters away, his arm shook and countless spear lights swept out. Lin Muyu was frighteningly calm. Her left hand lightly opened, and the dragon blood battle shield was instantly formed, blocking Luo Xian's series of attacks. Suddenly, the sound of wind breaking came from behind. It was the tail of the purple dragon sweeping out. This attack was very insidious and it caught people off guard. But Lin Muyu's spirit pulse art had already seen through it. She waved her sword, and the golden god binding chains circled around the blade, instantly disintegrating the purple dragon's tail. Ha! Luo Xian poured all her strength into her battle flames, and the attacks on the spear became more and more violent. In the blink of an eye, the dragon blood battle shield had become a sieve, and its surface was full of holes. Lin Muyu couldn't help but be shocked. This Luo Xian really was amazing. The strength of the purple dragon was so domineering. No wonder Feng Jixing lost to this kid on an empty stomach. But the moment the dragon blood battle shield shattered, Lin Muyu suddenly opened her left hand, and a dazzling ray of light soared into the sky. In an instant, Luo Xian couldn't open her eyes. All was fair in war. Although Luo Xian had cultivated with her master for many years, her combat experience was simply too immature compared to Lin Muyu. Buzz. Dark energy swirled around her left fist, and strands of ghostly power surged. Lin Muyu closed in, and her left fist shot out like lightning, directly striking the purple dragon battle armor on Luo Xian's abdomen. For Luminary's demon god cry. Bam! After shattering Luo Xian's battle armor with a single strike, Lin Muyu took advantage of the momentum of Luo Xian's retreat and activated falling star steps the moment her feet touched the ground. Her exquisite star steps flashed behind Luo Xian like a bolt of lightning. Bending her body, she lashed out with her right leg, sweeping Luo Xian's legs with the force of an autumn gale sweeping away fallen leaves. With a loud crack, Luo Xian's left leg was most likely broken. Arg! A howl of anguish rang out as Luo Xian determined Lin Muyu's position. He turned around and unleashed a fierce spear strike that was fast and vicious, and he didn't hold back in the slightest. It was a lethal strike. However, Lin Muyu had her sword in hand, and she was able to easily deflect the spear strike with just a gentle wave of her starlight sword. At the same time, she raised her body and launched a powerful elbow strike into Luo Xian's chest. Bam! The suit of battle armor that Luo Xian had condensed in such a short time was unable to withstand the blow, and with a loud crack, countless ribs were broken. Just as his body was less than 30 centimeters away from the ground, Lin Muyu raised her leg and kicked Luo Xian and his spear away as if they were a sandbag. Bam! Luo Xian's breastplate and knee pads were already shattered, and he rolled dozens of meters on the ground with his spear. He lay on the ground in a sorry state and a mouthful of blood sprayed from his mouth. Young General! Young General! The guards of the Cloud King's mansion were already dumbfounded. Luo Xian, who had astonishingly defeated Feng Jixing in the Zetian Palace, had actually been defeated by Lin Muyu in just 3 moves. Chapter 554. Cough cough. Luo Xian coughed out another mouthful of blood and laid there in a sorry state. Many of his ribs were broken and his left leg was definitely fractured. Lin Muyu didn't hold back at all and completely wanted him to be bedridden for half a month. After all, Mount Qi had been occupied by the Yunzhong province's army and it was impossible to take it back. They couldn't openly fight each other. Lin Muyu had to vent the anger in her heart. This Luo Xian was really unlucky to have delivered himself to her doorstep. Young General, are you all right? Lin Muyu stepped forward and smiled faintly. Swords have no eyes. It was a life-and-death struggle just now and I may have used a bit too much force. I hope that young general can forgive me. I have a bottle of top-notch gold sore medicine here. If young general doesn't mind, please accept it. Apply it in the morning and evening and the medicine will cure your illness. This is a first-grade gold sore medicine and it can't be bought on the market. Luo Xin gritted his teeth. The two guards of the Yunzhong Wang estate tactfully accepted the bottle and respectfully said, "Many thanks to Marquis Yunling for the medicine." "What are you saying?" "His Highness the Yunzhong Wang is Xiao Yin's maternal grandfather and I am Xiao Yin's sworn brother. In other words, the Yunzhong Wang is also my maternal grandfather. Young general is already my maternal uncle. We are a family and there is no need to be so polite." While a certain person was passionately speaking, Situ Shue's beautiful face was expressionless as she said to the Kiliarchs and generals beside her, "These are all internal injuries caused by bone fractures. What's the use of gold sore medicine? You still have to speak so much nonsense. Sir is becoming more and more shameless." The Kiliarchs respectfully nodded and didn't dare to say anything. Situ Sin clenched his fist and walked forward to punch Lin Muyu's arm. He smiled and said, "Commander, this beating is really satisfying. Let's see if this brat still dares to challenge others and act domineering. He even said that there is always someone better out there. Now he has been beaten up, right?" Lin Muyu said, "Lower your voice. It's not appropriate to speak in front of others." Saying that, he said to a group of imperial guards, "Hurry up and carry the young general back to the imperial residence to treat his injuries. What are you all standing here for? Do you want to eat dinner in the holy temple?" The guards cupped their fists one after another, and a few of them carried Luo Xin away in a hurry. Situsen raised his hand and laughed. Longdan Army Camp retreat. Lin Muyu also cupped her fists towards Xianyuan Hong and said, "Great attendant, shall I return to camp?" "All right, you go ahead," Xianyuan Hong said with a smile. After Lin Muyu and the others left, Guyang trembled as he held the scroll. He smiled and said, "I didn't expect you to defeat Luo Xian in 3 moves. What a surprise." Xianyuan Hong said with a deep look in his eyes, "Yu's fighting style is different from ordinary people. He doesn't stick to one style and he's just too smart. If not for his martial soul's ability and the use of his moves, I'm afraid the outcome wouldn't have been decided within 30 moves. Just look at how angry Luo Xian is." Guyang stroked his white beard with a smile on his face. "Great attendant, use current cultivation. I'm afraid it's far beyond our imagination. You don't know, but use star arts and 7 luminaries' profound energy are the strongest techniques in the world. If he had used the 7 luminaries' stars transformation right from the start, I'm afraid Luo Xin would have been defeated in 1 move." "Yes," Xianyuan Hong nodded. "Let's go, we'll study the dragon forging bone remnant scroll that you left behind. Once we've completely understood it, we'll pass it on to the other experts in the Holy Temple." "Yes, great attendant." Xianyuan Hong couldn't help but glance in the direction of the Longdan Army Camp again. He didn't know when he had started to rely on Lin Muyu so much. This brat had hastily become the great attendant of the Holy Temple, but he had changed the Holy Temple too much. The Cloud King's residence was in chaos. When Luo Xin was carried into the residence, Su Muyun, Su Yu and the rest were shocked. Looking at the heavily injured Luo Xin, Su Muyun's face was extremely twisted and sinister. Under the illumination of the fire, his eyes were filled with intense anger. "Lin Muyu is so ruthless. He actually beat Xinra up like this. Damn it, damn it." Luo Xin struggled to support his body. His face was filled with guilt. "Father, Luo Xin has let you down. I fell for Lin Muyu's trap. If not, I wouldn't have been defeated like this." Su Muyun held his shoulder. "Don't say any more. Singer, rest well. Someone, get the young general of the Imperial Physician Association to treat his injuries and prescribe medicine." "Yes." Luo Xian's face was filled with unwillingness. But in the end it was just as Lin Muyu had said. With his body's recovery level, he would need to lie in bed for at least half a month before he could get out of bed. With a creak, Su Muyun closed the door to Luo Xian's room. However, he realized that the bright moon was hanging high in the sky in the courtyard. He slowly walked to the backyard and sat down on a stone bench. He said lightly, "Someone heat up a pot of wine for me." "Yes, Your Highness." Not long after, a pot of warm wine was served. Su Yu, who was at the side, poured wine for her father and said, "Father, are you disappointed in brother Luo Exen?" No. Su Muyun drank the wine in one gulp. His face was expressionless as he said, "I know how strong Luo Exen's cultivation is. He's not much weaker than Lin Muyu. If he wants to blame someone, he can only blame his battle experience for not being as good as Lin Muyu. With a little more training, he will definitely become one of the top experts in Lanyan City. The only thing I hate is Lin Muyu. He clearly knows that Luo Exan is my godson, but he still injured Luo Exan to this extent." Su Yu gently sat on the side and leisurely said, "Then has father ever thought that if Yu really hates you that much, she would have the opportunity to kill Luo Exan and cut off one of father's arms?" This, Su Muyun pondered and said, "He still doesn't have the courage and boldness to do so." Su Yu smiled. How could Lin Muyu, who dared to kill Tang Bin and challenge the demon race's army of 100,000 with only 5,000 people, not dare to kill Luo Exan? Father, you did not kill Luo Exan because of your relationship with Xiaoyin. Otherwise, with his personality, I feel that Luo Exan coming back alive is already a miracle. Perhaps we should consider whether seizing Mount Qi is worth it. What are you wavering? Su Muyun looked at his daughter and said, Tang Lan is recruiting soldiers wantonly in the Seven Seas Province and Earthstar Province, ignoring Xiao Yin's military strategy. In just 1 month, Tang Lan has recruited a total of 12,000 people. I'm afraid that in another half a year, Tang Lan's military strength will exceed 400,000. If Tang Lan, who has 400,000 soldiers, intends to rebel and collude with Iha country, will the world still belong to Qin? Su Yu was slightly stunned. Father suspects that Tang Lan will rebel? Nothing is impossible. Su Muyun sucked in a breath and said, the demon race is in the ascendant. According to our intelligence, the demon race has already rebuilt the Qianfeng core. Their number of armor demons has already recovered to around 50,000. Adding on the Thunder Chong core, which has not suffered much damage as long as the demon race leaves the Lingdong province, I'm afraid there will be another bloodbath. After the defeat in the Wildfire Plains, the Qianfeng will not fall for the trap again. The steel walls will be useless against the demon race's siege weapons. Moreover, once the demon race starts another war, they will definitely set their sights on the entire continent. Their military strength will reach an unimaginable level. Tang Lan. Humph, no one knows what he is thinking, but I know that a few high-level demon race members appeared in Seven Seas City not long ago, and coincidentally Tang Lan was in Seven Seas City. Su Yu's beautiful face was filled with shock. Father, you're saying that Tang Lan might collude with the demon race to overthrow the empire? Tang Lan's authority in Zetian Palace is declining day by day. In order to preserve his position, he might have done so, but I don't have any solid evidence. In short, we should prepare early. The day the demon race makes a comeback is the day the empire will be reshuffled. Tang Lan will make some moves, and the Iha kingdom in the Lingdong will also make some moves. We must make the best and most complete preparations in advance. Su Muyun sighed and said, we also need to recruit more troops from the several prefectures in the northeast of the Lingdong province. Also, you need to take some time to return to the Cloud province. Father will arrange for you to meet the generals of the dozen or so prefectures in the Cloud province. They are all Father's trusted aides. If there are any changes in the empire, they will all obey orders. Yes, Father, I understand. Su Yu bowed and said, Father, are we doing this to stabilize Xiao Yin's empire? You can say that. At the same time, we will stabilize our Su family's position in the empire. And I understand. At night, Lin Muyu did not slack off on his first night back in Lanyan City. He took a lot of dark steel from Jin Xiaotang and continued to forge weapons. The trip to the Dragon Forest this time was quite fruitful. There were a total of 224 Swift Wolf Spirit Stones from 2,000 to 800 years old. It was enough to forge many spirit and mystery-grade weapons. Moreover, Lin Muyu's understanding of the Heavenly Tomes had also deepened. It was time to forge Heavenly Tomes embryonic weapons in batches. After a busy night, his commander's room was already filled with weapons. After a short rest, he began to write the Heavenly Tomes. Since they were all Wind Spirit Stones, Lin Muyu focused on writing the Heavenly Tomes of the Wind Law. The only Heavenly Tomes of the Wind Law that he knew was the Storm Dragon Spin, inscribed in the Divine Tomes. He had no choice but to simplify the divine text and write a simplified version of the Storm Dragon Spin. To be honest, with Lin Muyu's current cultivation, he could not write the complete version of the Storm Dragon's spin at all. In the afternoon, with a swoosh, an earthy yellow light soared into the sky. At least many people in the Longdan army camp saw it. Situsen drank a cup of wine and looked up. He said, "Commander has written another low-grade earthly tomes." Situ Shui raised her eyebrows and smiled. "This is already the 5th one this afternoon." Wei Chou reached out and plucked the chicken drumstick from the plate. He said, "We must keep this a secret. We cannot let others know that Commander has written so many earthly tomes. Otherwise, there will be many people looking for trouble, especially those masters in the Heavenly Tomes Pavilion." Situ Shui smiled happily. "Don't worry. The people around the Commander's tent are all our trusted aides. No one will know about it. And that's good. Drink, drink, drink." Chapter 555. It was late at night and it was noon the next day. An orange light shot up into the sky from the embryo of the longsword. It was a top-grade spiritual book. Lin Muyu could not remember how many heavenly tomes she had written, but she could feel that Fushi's divine power in her arm was gushing into the heavenly tomes crazily. Every time a heavenly tomes was written, the energy and soul of the writer would be greatly consumed. This was also one of the reasons why heavenly tomes were so rare. Even though Lin Muyu had outstanding strength and a strong soul, she still felt a strong sense of weakness at this moment. "Who's on duty?" Lin Muyu asked. "Sir, it's me." Wei Chou's voice came from the outside. "Come in." "Yes." When Wei Chou pushed the door open and entered, he found a large pile of broken longswords on the ground. On the other side, there was a pile of finished weapon embryos that glowed with different colors. He could not help but be a little surprised. "Commander, how many heavenly tomes have you written in total?" "I don't know." Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "Prepare a sumptuous meal for me. I need to replenish my energy. In addition, let General Situ Shui come in and collect these longswords that have been made into books. Count the number of weapons that have been sent into the Longdan army camp's arsenal." Wei Chou was startled and said, "Logically speaking, these heavenly tomes should be collected into the Heavenly Book Pavilion." "It doesn't matter, the Heavenly Book Pavilion does not lack these. Let's bypass the Heavenly Book Pavilion and directly collect them into the arsenal of the Longdan army camp. Who can predict the outcome of the war in the future? Naturally, the more weapons we have in our hands, the better." Wei Chou smiled and said, "All right, I understand." Not long after, Situ Shui walked in with 3 Kiliarchs. They quietly carried away all the Heavenly Book embryos and registered them in the warehouse. The officers of the Longdan army camp could claim these weapons as their own weapons. This would greatly increase the combat power of the Longdan army camp. Not long after, Situ Shui held a file in her hand and said respectfully, "Commander, a total of 11 local books, 24 spiritual books, and 7 personal books have been recorded in the military warehouse?" "Yes." Lin Muyu sat tiredly on a chair. The 7 luminaries' immortal gourd and god-binding lock shone brightly around her. The 2 martial souls were greedily absorbing the spirit energy of the world around them to replenish the profound energy that their masters had used. Lin Muyu glanced at Situ Shui and smiled. "You've worked hard. You and General Sin can choose one of these embryonic earth book swords as your personal sword. It will definitely be much sturdier than your original sword." "Yes, I understand. Thank you very much, Commander." "You're welcome." At this time, Wei Chou walked in again. Behind him were 3 soldiers holding a silver cauldron. The cauldron was steaming hot, and it was filled with freshly made dishes. Lin Muyu invited the 2 subordinates to express that they had already eaten. Thus Wei Chou began to eat heartily by himself. In the blink of an eye, he had finished 3 cauldrons of dishes and 4 bowls of rice. He patted his belly in satisfaction and said, "All right, you guys can go back to your work. I want to take a good rest. Wake me up if anything happens." "Yes, Commander. Rest well." After Wei Chou and Situ Shui left, Lin Muyu lay down on the bed. After falling asleep, a faint layer of battle flames condensed on the surface of her body, forming a thick layer of battle armor. At the same time, a layer of golden light enshrouded the surface of the battle armor. This was the astral energy generated by the Vajra barrier. Before she knew it, Lin Muyu had already cultivated the 5th stage of the Vajra barrier divine art. In the blink of an eye, it was dark in Lanyan City. A bonfire rose in the Longdan army camp and the night drill began. The sound of horses' hooves and the collision of longswords became one. On Tongtian Street, pedestrians were in a hurry. It was particularly lonely at night without the night market. It seemed that everyone was just busy with their journey. Except for the sexy singers and dancers on the Flower and Wine Street, almost no one talked. Dang dang. The bell under the horse's neck gently shook, making a crisp sound. Several people in cloaks entered Longyan City. Their clothes were not in the style of the imperial capital, but they seemed to be from remote provinces such as Lingdong Province. There were 5 people in total. Under the night light, their eyes shone with a faint purple light. At the same time, they were equipped with swords and sabers at their waists, like wandering mercenaries. The group stopped in front of the drunken Immortal restaurant and quickly entered the private room upstairs. But they didn't lift the cloaks on their heads from beginning to end. After entering the private room, they immediately closed the door. In the dark corner of the street, a patrolman with a fire sparrow on his chest cupped his fists respectfully and said to the person in the dark, "Lord Xiao, that group of people has entered the drunken Immortal restaurant." The voice of the person in the dark was slightly hoarse, but it was full of energy. He said, "They have been in a hurry since entering the city, and they don't look like people from Lingbei province. Are you sure that the gold coin they left at the city gate is the legendary divine capital coin of the demon race?" The patrolman said, "I can confirm that after defeating the demon race in the Wildfire Plains, the Imperial Army seized a lot of the demon race's spoils of war. Among them, this divine capital coin is very common. I'm very sure that this group of people is most likely a high-level demon race. Even if they aren't, they should be spies among the demon race." Heh. The person in the dark smiled. "That's enough. Prepare your claws and follow me to investigate. I, Xiao Han, would like to know who is secretly colluding with the demon race in Longyan City." "Sir." The subordinate was ready. Xiao Han, ranked first among the 21 patrolman commanders of the Fire Sparrow Department, was known as the top constable of Longyan City. He was 28 years old and had a cultivation base of the first level of the Heaven Realm. He was the favorite subordinate of the Fire Sparrow Department's abbot, Zhenggu. Xiao Han had been patrolling the demon race's spies for nearly half a year, and now he had finally found such an important clue. In the darkness of the night, a row of fast horses galloped past on Tongtian Street. 2 young men dressed in black robes dismounted and entered the Inn of Drunken Immortal, heading straight for the private room. Under the dim light of the inn's lanterns, the 2 men's faces were faintly discernible. Their faces were solemn, and the waiter recognized them with a single glance. These 2 men were the 2 marquises of the Mansion of the 7 Seas, Marquis of North Ridge Tang Lu and Marquis of West Ridge Tang Tian. As if sensing the waiter's gaze, Tang Lu pulled down the hood of his cloak and said, "Guards, guard the restaurant for me. Prohibit anyone from entering or leaving." "Sir." The guards of the 7 Seas Palace, disguised as guards, placed their hands on the hilts of their swords and guarded the entire restaurant. However, no one noticed that in the dark sky, 2 figures floated down along the iron chains on the hooks and landed on the private room. Xiao Han's skills were exceptional. He landed on the room like a falling leaf without making a sound. The 2 patrolmen of the Fire Sparrow Department stuck to the room like bats, not making a sound. They also lowered their aura to the minimum. In terms of strength, Xiao Han was only at the first level of the Heaven Realm, but in terms of Qinggong and aura control he was probably at the level of a saint. Fweek. The door was pushed open. Tang Lu and Tang Tian walked in looking travel-worn. The 5 high-level devils in the room stood up one after another. One of them cupped his fists and said with a smile, "It's been a long time, Marquises. I'm the commander of the 1st Vanguard Battalion of the God Race, Xianju. These 4 are my colleagues." Tang Lu cupped his fists and said, my apologies. Xianju smiled and said, "The food and wine are ready. Let's drink and talk." "All right." The few of them sat down. Tang Lu glanced at the swords hanging on the waists of Xianju and the others. His gaze turned cold and he looked at Tang Tian, hinting him to be careful. But Xianju laughed aloud and said, "The 5 of us entered Longyan City alone and didn't plan to leave alive. Marquises, you don't have to be so cautious. This tavern is tightly surrounded by your people, and the entire capital is guarded by nearly 200,000 elite troops, including the Dragon's Courage Legion, the Imperial Army, and the Iron Blade Legion. We are already in a desperate situation, so how can we not be frank with each other? Tang Lu smiled and said, Lord Xianju is worrying too much. How about we toast first? Alright. After downing the wine, Xianju and the other demon race generals seemed to have no intention of eating. Looking at Tang Lu and Tang Tian's restless appearance, Xianju couldn't help but smile and said, Don't worry, we are very cautious in our actions. You two don't have to be so cautious. Tell us, what is the bargaining chip this time? Marshal Qianfeng is waiting for the news. The corner of Tang Lu's mouth rose. He said, Let's see what the demon race can take out first. Xianju laughed and said, Marty, you're a straightforward man. I'm impressed. Then I'll be frank with you. We can avoid the areas on the steel walls where the Marquis and Marquis are guarding. At the same time, once the God race enters your territory, we will avoid the Seven Seas Province and Star Earth Province. We won't touch a single soldier of the Tang family. This bargaining chip. Tang Lu grabbed an oily chicken leg and fiercely pulled it down from the chicken's body. He said with a ruthless expression, Our Tang family is not afraid of death. I think Lord Xianju has misunderstood something. Xianju was startled and seemed to understand something. He cupped his hands and said with a smile, My words have offended you. Please forgive me, Mark. Since this is the case, our God race can agree to a condition of the Marquis as long as we can do it. Really? Yes. Very well. Tang Lu placed the half-eaten chicken leg on the plate and wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. He said, I want you to kill someone. Xianju was startled. He couldn't help but narrow his eyes and said with a smile, Kill someone? If it's Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu and Xiang Yu, the three great commanders, forget it. The elders of the God race may not be able to kill the three of them. Don't worry. Tang Lu laughed mischievously. The person I want you to kill won't be too strong, but the demon race must take action. Oh. Xianju looked straight at Tang Lu and asked with a face full of smiles, Then who does the Marquis want to kill that the God race must take action? Tang Lu raised his hand and drank the wine. The wine cup fell heavily on the table and he said with a cold gaze, Governor of Tsangnan Province, Lord of Five Valleys City, Su Jiantao. Chapter 556. Su Jiantao. Xianju was stunned. What? You can't do it? Tang Lu faintly smiled. Xianju was silent for a few seconds and then smiled. It's not impossible, but Su Jiantao is Lin Muyu's favorite general and also the governor of one of the 6 provinces of the empire. He has at least 50,000 troops in the Five Valleys City. If we want to kill Su Jiantao, it will take a lot of effort. Marquis, you have to give me a reason why we must kill Su Jiantao, right? Tang Tian was somewhat indignant as he said with a cold face. After Su Jiantao became the governor of the province, he started farming, conscripting, mining, smelting iron and forging weapons. He turned the resource-rich Tsangnan province into the backyard of the Dragon Courage Corps. As long as Su Jiantao doesn't die, the Dragon Courage Corps will become more and more powerful. Could it be that Lord Xianju has forgotten who caused the crushing defeat of the demon race in the Wildfire Plains? Xianju's face turned ugly as he smiled. Marquis Westridge doesn't need to remind me. I will always remember that crushing defeat. However, Su Jiantao is a feudal lord after all. It won't be easy to kill him. Moreover, we will need to use the armor demons. Is that so? Tang Lu raised the corner of his mouth and said with a slightly ferocious smile, Then what if we tell you that Su Jiantao will go to the recruit camp outside the Five Valleys City every 3 days to check the provisions and troops, and that he will bring no more than 500 people with him? Really? Xianju seemed to be a little excited. He stood up and said, If Marquis tells us the exact time and place, it may make it more convenient for us to act. Tang Lu nodded. This is naturally not difficult. Xianju calmed down his excited mood and sat down again, saying, In this case, the God race has already agreed to Marquis Westridge's request. Then what about Marquis Westridge? Will you agree to our request? Tell me, what do the demons want? Xianju narrowed his eyes. It's very simple. We need to know what Lin Muyu is doing and what his Longdan army camp is doing. Our men have received news that the valiant dragon army is developing a new weapon in the barren mountains outside Longyan City, but our men can't get in. So, the 2 marquises must find out what this new weapon is. Tang Tian clenched his teeth. That's preposterous. If your demon race can't find out, do you think we can? Don't go too far. Tang Lu hurriedly pressed his brother's shoulder and said with a smile, Brother Tian, don't be impulsive. Let me talk. As he spoke, Tang Lu cupped his fists towards Xianju and said, I'll naturally send people to investigate this new weapon. Don't worry, sir. If you only have this request, then we can immediately get it done. Don't be anxious, Xianju smiled. How can a piece of information be used to break Lin Muyu's arm? Also, marquises, listen up. We have conditions that we need you to agree to. Tang Lu said indifferently. Speak, Sir Xianju. Xianju smiled, dipped his finger in wine and drew on the table, saying, the god race is expanding its army and urgently needs a large amount of food. Therefore, the two marquises must prepare 50 million jin of food for us within a month. 50 million jin? You must be joking. Tang Lu was startled and said with some anger, you're making things too difficult for us. The empire has been at war for many years and many people are starving. Where will we get so much food for you? Even if we get it, how will we transport it to you? Xianju smiled. 50 million jin of food might be difficult for others, but it isn't so difficult for the two marquises. I heard that one of the largest merchant associations in the imperial capital, the Dragon-Seeking Merchant Association, is backed by your 7-Sea Monarch residence. If you let the Dragon-Seeking Merchant Association purchase food at a high price, I'm afraid that 50 million jin of food won't amount to much for the affluent North Ridge province and the imperial capital. If it's transportation, it's even simpler. Star Earth province is your Tang family's fief, and there's a tributary of the Rice River that runs from Star Earth province's Bugu City to Winter Ridge province. There aren't any military inspections or checkpoints along the way. As long as the Tang family hires enough merchant ships, they can easily transport the food to Winter Frost City. At that time, our transaction will be considered complete. Tang Lu narrowed his eyes and said, is a mere Su Jiantao worth so much food? It's not worth it. Xianju laughed heartily and took out a map from his bosom. He lightly pointed on the map and said, this is a prefecture east of the steel protective wall. It's called Qintian Prefecture. Our god race's army of approximately 10,000 is garrisoned in Qintian Prefecture. If the two marquises don't mind, you can dispatch your troops to attack Qintian Prefecture. Marshal Qianfeng will naturally order the Qintian Prefecture's garrison to flee in defeat. At that time, the two marquises will recover the empire's lost land. I believe that Her Majesty the Empress will also look favorably upon the two of you, right? Tang Tian couldn't help but become excited, his entire body slightly trembling. Tang Lu narrowed his eyes and said, the land in the east of Songnan province will be easily taken away even if we take it back. What's the point? Xianju sneered. As long as it can be exchanged for riches and honor, would the Marquis really care about the empire's territory? Marquis, don't forget that Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing have been overbearing in the imperial capital. Your Tang family has received the cold shoulder. Her Highness Tanglan is a person of virtue and prestige, but her power has almost declined. Shouldn't your Tang family consider for yourself? Tang Lu drank a few more cups of wine. His face was flushed red and he laughed heartily. He laughed so hard that tears rolled down from the corners of his eyes. His palms landed heavily on the table and he looked at the other party with an ice-cold gaze. Deal. All right, deal. Right at this moment, a guard outside suddenly shouted, who is it? A ray of light from the heavenly book pavilion soared into the sky. It was a faint indigo luster. It was actually a low-grade heavenly book. However, because this faint luster was too close, it illuminated the upper floor of the wine shop, causing the hiding place of Xiao Han and his subordinates to be discovered. A few guards of the Seven Seas Palace immediately raised their blades and rushed over. We've been exposed, my lord. The young patrolman's face was ashen. It's fine, follow me. Xiao Han, on the other hand, was much calmer. With a leap, he evaded the line of sight of the guards. His body was like a dancing swallow as he floated into a private room in the wine shop. Inside the private room were 4 mercenaries who were drinking. When they saw Xiao Han enter, they immediately turned pale with fright. Who are you? Xiao Han lifted his cloak, revealing the insignia of Flame Lord. He said in a low voice, I am the first commander of Flame Lord, Xiao Han. Immediately pretend to know me and drink here, or Flame Lord will make sure your heads roll. Yes. The mercenaries had all heard of Xiao Han's name. After all, the first patrolman of Lanyan City was a nightmare for many criminals. Mercenaries, on the other hand, were people who lived on the edge of a knife, so they naturally had a lot of contact with Flame Lord. The two patrolmen quickly sat down and took the wine glasses and chopsticks from the side. Xiaohan picked up the wine pot and took a big gulp. His mouth reeked of alcohol and he grabbed the food in the copper cauldron and stuffed it into his mouth, until his face was greasy. At this moment the door of the private room was kicked open with a bang. Four guards of the Seven Sea King's mansion who were disguised as guards, looked inside angrily and shouted, "Did you see anyone come in?" No. One of the mercenaries said in a trembling voice. Xiaohan glanced at him. At this moment Tang Lu and Tang Tian also appeared at the door. Tang Sect untied the belt of his cloak and looked inside coldly. "What's going on?" The guard said, "Marquis, we saw someone jump over the stairs and disappear, so we chased after him. I'm afraid the assassin is in this private room." "Is that so?" Xiaohan laughed coldly and cupped his fists. "Your subordinate is the first commander of the Fire Sparrow Division, Xiaohan. Greetings to North Ridge Marquis and West Ridge Marquis. I've been drinking with a few friends here for a long time. I didn't know that you two Marquis were here. I wonder who you two Marquis are looking for when you kicked open the door? So it's Master Xiaohan from the Fire Sparrow Division?" Tang Tian smiled lightly. "Then there's nothing else. Please continue drinking, I'll be going back." "Farewell, Marquis." "Humph." Tang Lu snorted coldly and turned to leave. Tang Tian hurriedly chased after him and whispered, "Brother, did someone hear our negotiation? Could it be the Xiaohan?" Tang Lu's gaze was cold. There's still frost on Xiaohan's cloak. What did he mean by drinking for a long time? Ridiculous. Then why didn't we kill him? There are too many people here. Besides, he might not have heard anything. Moreover, Xiaohan's cultivation is extremely high. We might not be his match and the demons have left. Then what about Xiaohan? Find a chance to make him disappear from this world. Yes. Inside the wine shop, Xiaohan opened the window and said, "Let's go." The young patrolman was startled. "We're leaving through the window? Quick, if you don't want to die here and be silenced." "Yes." The two of them leaped down the stairs like flying swallows and quickly disappeared into the darkness. However, none of them noticed that there were two ghost-like shadows following them in the night. Official Alley, one of the streets of Lanyan City's Flower and Wine Street. It was already late at night and there were only a few drunkards and the laughter of dancers coming from afar. The Flower and Wine Street was a place for the rich and nobles to enjoy themselves. They lived a life of luxury, as though the war to the east of Songnan Province and the south of Qinling Mountains had nothing to do with them. Xiaohan and his subordinates were flying through Guanren Alley when they suddenly felt a scorching heat at the back of their heads. Shockingly, a fire fox seal appeared in the palm of an expert and directly blasted over. It was the masked Tang Lu. "Oh my god!" Xiaohan hurriedly turned around and unsheathed his sword to block. However, he only felt his chest heat up. He was unable to block the fire fox seal's sharpness. He spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. No one knew that Tang Lu had unknowingly stepped into the Heavenly King realm. "Lord Xiao." The young patrolman turned pale with fright. However, he felt his back heat up and a fiery red palm stretched out from his chest. Tang Tian's expression was cold as he said, "You must die." Xiaohan's face was ashen. Leaning on his broken sword, he staggered towards the Flower and Wine Street. "You still want to leave?" Tang Lu and Tang Tian chased after him like the king of hell. Xiaohan's consciousness was a little chaotic. After running a few more steps, he heard someone's voice. "Big brother whore, you really drank too much today." "Little brother whore, you're the one who drank too much. I'm only half drunk. I Zhang Wei have roamed the brothel for dozens of years. When have I really been drunk? It's a pity that Lord Commander doesn't allow the Imperial Army officers to stay outside the camp. Otherwise, I'll definitely make that little fox peach want to die tonight. Big brother whore, look, there's a fire in front." "Oh, you must have seen wrongly. Oh my god, there's really a fire. There's even someone. Who is it? How dare such an ugly person run around in the middle of the night? Big brother whore, it's someone from Fire Sparrow Division. It seems to be Xiaohan. Should we save him?" "Yes, big brother whore, you go first." "Damn it, you two thieves, stop right there. Watch this daddy's fiery soul fist." Chapter 557. Weng. A fiery red and enormous profound energy fist shot into the sky and headed straight for Tang Tian and Tang Lu. and it shocked Tang Lu to the point he hurriedly swung his palm and used the Firefox seal to deal with this attack. In truth, Zhang Wei was only at the heaven realm, so he wasn't that terrifying. However, what Tang Lu was most afraid of was the fact that Zhang Wei was actually wearing the armor of a vice commander of the Imperial Guard. This fellow was simply too daring. He was the first person to wear a military uniform to PC, but it was this armor that scared Tang Lu so much that he couldn't kill him anymore. Killing a deputy commander-level general in the imperial capital was a huge crime. It was probably not as simple as killing Emir Xiaohan. Furthermore, Zhang Wei was Feng Jixing's favorite general and had a good relationship with Lin Muyu. Once this matter was pursued, it would be even more troublesome. Pulling out the carrot would bring out the mud. No matter how stupid Tang Lu was, he would still understand this logic. After exchanging glances, Tang Lu and Tang Tian leaped up successively onto a nearby house and vanished into the veil of night in the blink of an eye. Don't go, you two. Stay here and fight with me for 300 rounds. Zhang Wei's fists were enshrouded in raging flames. As he waved his fists, flames shot up into the sky. He looked like a ferocious tiger, but he couldn't stand steadily and fell to the ground. Xiaohan covered the burn wound on his chest and said gratefully, "Thank you, General, for saving me." Zhang Wei helped Xiaohan up and said, "Nonsense. Why are you so polite? You are from the Fire Sparrow Division. I saved you, so you must treat me to wine. I want the courtesan lady." All right then. Xiaohan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Zhang Qing walked forward and cupped his fists. "Lord Xiaohan, do you still remember me? Aren't you the temple's Silver Star instructor Zhang Qing? That's me. I just happened to walk here after drinking with my cousin Zhang Wei. Lord Xiaohan, why are you being chased? Who are those two people?" Xiaohan knew the importance of this matter and shook his head. "I also don't know. The imperial capital has been getting more and more restless recently." Yes. Zhang Qing helped Zhang Wei up and said, "I will accompany cousin to the imperial army's camp. Lord Xiaohan, do you want to go with us? I'm afraid we might meet some danger along the way." "I won't." Xiaohan waved his hand and said, "This place is only a few steps away from the Fire Sparrow Division. Don't worry, Xiaohan will definitely visit you too to thank you for saving my life." "You're too polite." Zhang Qing supported Zhang Wei as they slowly left, while Xiaohan quickly disappeared into the darkness of the Flower Wine Street. After crossing a street, they would reach the main hall of the Flamecracks Division. At this time, the main door of the Flamecracks department was still wide open. When a commander-level patrolman went out to patrol, the Flamecracks department was usually guarded throughout the night. However, when a group of patrolmen saw the injured Xiaohan walking towards them, they couldn't help but be shocked. "Sir Xiao, what happened to you? Who hurt you?" "I'm fine." Xiaohan shook his head and asked, "Is Lord Abbot asleep?" "Not yet. Bring me to see the Lord Abbot." Yes. Behind a row of steel fences, light shone through the window. A patrolman knocked on the door and said in a low voice, "Lord Jing, Commander Xiaohan requests an audience." Xiaohan. Jinggu held a cultivating heart scripture in his hands. After putting down the scripture, he said, "Let Xiaohan come in." Yes. A group of patrolmen stood outside the door. Xiaohan pushed the door open and entered. Most of the clothes on his chest had been burned away, revealing the soft armor underneath. He looked a little embarrassed as he cupped his hands and said, "Sir, I'm back." Jinggu frowned. "Xiaohan, what happened? Who dared to injure the commander of the Flamecracks department in the capital city? This is simply disregarding the laws of the country. Fig, who is it?" Xiaohan didn't answer the question. He smiled and said, "Sir, compared to the news I received, this injury is nothing." "What?" Jinggu said in a low voice. "You've made any progress in your patrol?" "Yes, this subordinate found 5 high-level demons in the tavern, but unfortunately we didn't bring enough people, so we weren't a match for the demons at all. Moreover, the people who conspired with the demons had already found me and Sun He. Sun He died in the line of duty, and this subordinate's injuries were also caused by the conspirators." "This," Jinggu said lightly, "who would be so daring as to secretly meet with the demons in Lanyan City? And dare to kill the patrolman of the Flamecracks department in Lanyan City? It's the people of the Seven Seas Palace." Xiaohan took a deep breath and said, "The Marquis of North Ridge, Tang Lu, Marquis of West Ridge, Tang Tin. My injury was caused by Tang Lu, and Sun He was killed by Tang Tian himself." "What?" The people of the Seven Seas Palace. Zhenggu suddenly trembled and his body seemed to fall uncontrollably into the chair. Sir. Xiaohan looked at Zhenggu and was slightly disappointed. He said, Sir, you can't be lenient just because they are powerful. At this time the fate of the empire is at stake. We, the Flamecracks Department, live off the king's salary and receive the king's grace. Now is the time to serve the country. I heard clearly that Tang Lu and Tang Tian were conspiring with the demons. The Seven Seas Palace King Tang Lon must also be involved. Please grant me the Flamecracks order so that I can continue to investigate this matter. Flamecracks order? Zhenggu looked a little dejected. No, this matter can't be continued. Otherwise, the implications will get bigger and bigger and it will affect the country. If we don't continue to investigate, the country will really be affected. Xiaohan said indignantly, Sir, do you know what they are plotting? I don't need to know, Zhenggu said faintly. Xiaohan was stunned. Sir, you are the abbot of the Flamecracks Department and you are in charge of the laws of the empire. How can you say such things? They are conspiring to assassinate the chief executive of Songnan Province, Su Jiantao. Once Su Jiantao is killed, Songnan Province is bound to fall into chaos, and the eastern gate of the empire will be lost to the demons. I know. Zhenggu looked at him deeply and said, Xiaohan, you should also understand how powerful the Seven Seas Palace King Tang Lon is. If we rush to deal with him now, I'm afraid it will be like a rabbit jumping over a wall. The Seven Seas Province and the Earth Star Province will attack Lingbei Province from the north and south. What will happen to Longyan City then? Can the Longdan Army Camp and the Imperial Guards protect Longyan City and Her Highness? As he said this, Zhenggu gently patted Xiaohan's shoulder and said, Go and rest first. I will consider this matter. Don't worry, bad people will eventually get their retribution. Son, he will not die in vain. Then all right. Someone send Commander Xiaohan back to his room to rest and recuperate. Yes. As soon as Xiaohan left, another commander-level officer came in and cupped his fists. Sir. Zhenggu's eyes were cold. Send someone to imprison Xiaohan. Don't let him step out of his room. Yes. After midnight, another group of people appeared at the entrance of the Flamecracks Department. An old man in a cloak covered his face in a luxurious carriage walked into the Flamecracks Department, followed by a forest of guards. What's wrong with our Flamecracks Department today? One of the guards was shocked. It's like a busy market with people coming and going. It's really lively. Who knows? Let's not ask about the matters of the upper echelons lest we get implicated. Well, you're right. Is that old man who just went in His Highness the Seven Seas King Tang Lon? I told you not to ask, Stinky S13. In the depths of the Flamecracks Department, a guard hurried to Zhenggu's residence and knocked on the door. Sir, His Highness the Seven Seas King is here. Zhenggu was stunned. Quick, invite His Highness to the front hall to serve tea. I'll be right there. No, His Highness said to meet here. Then, all right then. When Tang Lon stepped into Zhenggu's residence, he waved his hand and dismissed the guards, leaving only him and Zhenggu in the room. Subordinate Zhenggu, the abbot of the Flamecracks Department, greets Your Highness. Zhenggu hurriedly bowed and said, May I know why Your Highness is visiting so late at night? Tang Lon didn't say anything. He walked forward and picked up the teapot to pour some water, but the water quickly overflowed and steam splashed everywhere. Zhenggu was at a loss. Your Highness, the water is full. Is the water full? Tang Lon smiled faintly. A cup can only hold so much water and a Flamecracks Department can only manage so many things. If it manages too much, the water will inevitably overflow. Zhenggu knew what Tang Lon was implying. He cupped his fists and said, If Your Highness has something to say, just say it. Forgive me for being slow-witted. Tang Lon slowly sat down on the chair holding the overflowing tea. The tea kept splashing out and landing on his robes, but he was unmoved. He took a sip and smiled. The tea of the Flamecracks Department is really bitter. Zhenggu was a little embarrassed. The Flamecracks Department is a limitless yamen. Naturally, it can't be compared to the Imperial Residence's tea. Limitless yamen? Tang Lon couldn't help but smile. He looked at the cold moon outside the window and said, A year ago when the Minister of Revenue was investigated, there was an ownerless account with a total of 1,240,000 gold coins. Does Lord Jinggu still remember? This account seems to have been investigated by Lord Jinggu, but in the end, it disappeared without a trace. He only killed a mere patrolman to punish him. I also heard that Lord Jinggu has 3 villas in the Heaven's Pivot province. They are incomparably rich and luxurious. Is this all true? Jinggu couldn't help but sweat profusely. Your Highness, these are all true. If it's true, then the Flamecracks department is not a limitless yamen. Tang Lon laughed heartily and stepped forward to help the trembling Jinggu up. Sir Jinggu, no man is a saint. Everyone has their own selfish motives. Who doesn't do this for the sake of a better life for their family? Sai, my 2 useless grandsons Tang Lu and Tang Tian, seem to have caused trouble for this old man again. I'll have to trouble Lord Jinggu with this matter. Jinggu was silent. Tang Lon smiled again. He took out a thick stack of gold notes and placed it on the table. He said, the weather is getting cold. Take these gold coins as a coat for the officers of the Flamecracks department. I'm tired. Lord Jinggu, you don't have to transport them. Jinggu knelt on the ground and trembled. Although it was winter, he was drenched in cold sweat. Chapter 558. The next morning, during the Imperial Court Assembly. As if it had become a habit, Lin Muyu would wake up early every Imperial Court Assembly. After washing up, he would bring Wei Chou, Situ Sin, Situ Shui Fingxi and the others to Zetian Hall. The spring breeze in January already brought with it a wisp of warmth. The annual Spring Plowing Festival was not far away. In the past, Lin Muyu did not care about the production of grain, but now it was not a normal relationship. He would always calculate the grain output of the various provinces from the Ministry of Revenue and calculate the grain consumption of every army in the empire. Now, his biggest wish was for the weather to be good this year and for the empire's land to produce more grain. As long as there was enough grain for the army, perhaps the empire would take the initiative to send troops this year. After all, he had a trump card in his hands, the magic crystal cannon. It was not the first or second day that the Zine Flower Chamber of Commerce had been purchasing magic crystals in large quantities. The news from Qin Xiling was that the development and improvement of the magic crystal cannon had reached about 70% progress. In just a few more months, the technology of this weapon would mature. Once the magic crystal cannon was mass-produced, the Empire's army would gain the upper hand in the war. From afar, Feng Jixing walked over with Zhang Wei, Xiahou Sang, Luo Yu and the others. He smiled and said, "What have you been up to recently? I couldn't even find you for a drink." "Busy inscribing the heavenly book." Lin Muyu answered truthfully. Another heavenly book." Feng Jixing was brave, but he seemed to be slightly biased against the heavenly book. He said with a taboo tone, "Did you know that someone wrote a lower-grade heavenly book last night? And it was someone from the Heavenly Book Pavilion." Lin Muyu was slightly stunned. This person should be the first person to write a heavenly book in Lanyan City, right? He had the divine book, but he could not write a heavenly book of the heavenly book level. This person actually wrote a heavenly book. It seemed like his aptitude and comprehension were above his. Lin Muyu frowned and said, "Is it Manager Ji Lin?" Feng Jixing shook his head. "It would be great if it was Ji Lin. The bad thing is that the person who wrote the lower-grade heavenly book is actually the kid from the Lu residence, that person called Lu Feng." As he spoke, Feng Jixing clenched his fists and said, "Lu Feng has been fantasizing about Her Royal Highness. You should know that. This time he has written the heavenly book. I wonder how arrogant he will be. Doesn't that mean that he's going to be the manager of the Heavenly Book Pavilion?" Lin Muyu asked. "I don't know. We'll find out in court today. Let's go, it's almost time to go to court." "Yes." In the spacious main hall of Zetian Palace, the civil and military officials were divided into 2 sides. The military officials were Feng Jixing, Xiang Yu, Lin Muyu, Su Yu and so on. The civil officials were Tang Lon and Su Muyun, standing side by side, followed by Jin Yifan, followed by the 6 ministers. These 3 people's status in the imperial court was evident. Behind the 6 ministers were the manager of the Heavenly Book Pavilion, Ji Lin, and Prince Zhong of the Prince Zhong's residence, Qin Yong. What was different was that the person standing behind Ji Lin was not Lu Yen Ouyang Ping or the other masters of the Heavenly Book family, but the young Lu Feng. At this time, Lu Feng naturally looked like he was riding on the crest of success. He was dressed in the white robes of the Heavenly Book Pavilion and looked handsome and refined. At this time a group of female officials surrounded Qin Yin, who was wearing a golden empress robe, and walked to the front hall. Qin Yin held Tang Xiaoxi's hand and arranged a seat next to the emperor's throne. Just like that, Tang Xiaoxi sat there. What's going on? Feng Jixing looked up at Tang Xiaoxi with a puzzled expression. Lin Muyu was also a little confused. She had never seen such a scene before. Tang Xiaoxi seemed to see the confusion of Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing and the others. She just smiled sweetly and didn't say anything. After all, this was the imperial court. Solemnity, tension, unity, liveliness, and so on were ancient teachings that couldn't be disobeyed. Tang Lan, who was more experienced, stepped forward and cupped her fists. Your Highness, why is Xiaoxi? Qin Yin smiled faintly and said, Don't be surprised, 7C King. I was about to announce it. Come summon her. Yes. The female official, Shangguan Jingyue, walked forward with the golden imperial edict in her hand. After unfolding it, she said in a clear voice, In accordance with the emperor's decree, Tang Xiaoxi is well educated and reasonable. She is considerate of the overall situation and has saved the empire from disaster. She especially conferred the title of princess who supports the nation and bestowed the sword seal. If the emperor can't decide, princess who supports the nation can decide on her own. Princess who supports the nation. Feng Jixing was startled and couldn't help but laugh. Your Highness is really different. In the past, it's always the older officials who are conferred the title of princess who supports the nation, but Your Highness actually conferred the title of princess who supports the nation at such a young age. However, it seems that no one is more suitable than Princess Xi. Lin Muyu nodded. At this moment, Tang Xiaoxi had already stood up to express her gratitude and took the sword seal from Qin Yin's hands. In this way, Tang Xiaoxi's power and status in the empire had already faintly surpassed Tang Lan and Su Muyun. This must be another move that Qin Yin thought of to keep the two great feudal vassals in check. Tang Lan couldn't say anything, so she took a few steps back and stood beside Su Muyun. Su Muyun remained silent and didn't say a word. He only looked at Lin Muyu with a different expression. Half of it was helplessness and the other half was resentment. Su Muyun hated that Lin Muyu couldn't be used by him, but he was helpless because his godson Luo Xian's cultivation was still not as good as Lin Muyu's. He couldn't make Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing and the other empress's forces submit to him in terms of martial arts. A few minutes later, Ji Lin, the manager of the Heavenly Book Pavilion, stepped out and bowed respectfully. Your subject Ji Lin is here to report to Your Highness. I have a piece of great news. Qin Yin smiled faintly. What good news does the manager have? Both of Ji Lin's arms were slightly trembling as he said excitedly, The second young master of the Lu residence, young master Lu Feng, is indeed an outstanding talent in the empire. He is exceptionally talented and outstanding. Last night he actually wrote a low-grade heavenly book. The embryo of the heavenly book is here. Please examine it, Your Highness. He respectfully raised both of his arms and put down the jade tablet in his hand. He took out a white and lustrous jade hook and said, This is the embryo of the heavenly book. The jade hook was a tool that the nobles used to hook their belts when they wore loose embroidered robes. In reality, only the richer nobles would use this kind of fragile artifact as an everyday item. As for generals like Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu, their belts were all specially made from animal skin, which was sturdy and easy to use. The jade hook glowed with a faint flame. This was a low-grade heavenly book of the law of fire. Shangguan Jingyue walked forward and took the jade hook. Then she turned around and handed it over to Qin Yin. Qin Yin only stretched out her hand and touched it lightly. Immediately, a fiery red divine rune appeared on the jade hook. It was scorching hot. She couldn't help but smile. The power of heaven and earth is indeed vigorous. Congratulations to young Master Lu Feng for entering the ranks of the Heavenly Book Pavilion's heavenly scholars. Zetian Palace will naturally reward you. Men, take this embryo away and put it into the Heavenly Book Pavilion according to the rules. Yes, Your Highness. Qin Yin smiled sweetly at the officials and said, Lords, young Master Lu Feng is the first genius to write a heavenly book. Does anyone have any suggestions on how to reward him? Su Muyun cupped his fists and said, Lu Feng wrote the highest grade heavenly book. Logically speaking, he should enter the Heavenly Book Pavilion and become its master. The current manager of the Heavenly Book Pavilion, Ji Lin, was from the Seven Seas province. He was also Tang Lan's subordinate. Naturally, Su Muyun hoped that someone would replace him. A trace of surprise flashed across Jilin's face. However, he didn't show it and only stood silently on the spot. If Qin Yin really stripped him of his position as the manager of the Heavenly Book Pavilion, he wouldn't have any complaints. Who asked the Lu residents to have such a genius like Lu Feng? However, unexpectedly Lu Feng stepped out of the ranks. He held the jade tablet and knelt on both knees. Your Highness, Lu Feng is only a mediocre person. The reason why I can write a low-grade heavenly book is because I admire your Highness. Lu Feng doesn't want any title. I only hope that your Highness can grant Lu Feng a chance to have a meal with your Highness alone. I hope that your Highness will not refuse. As he spoke, he bowed deeply and bowed deeply. Feng Jixing couldn't help sighing inwardly. This Lu Feng was really throwing caution to the wind. Was he willing to give up the title of Marquis just for a kiss? Many of the generals were already furious. Zhang Wei, Wei Chou, Situ Sin, and the others knew that Lin Muyu and Qin Yin were already lovers. Now that Lu Feng was pestering them, it was truly infuriating. In the end, Wei Chou, the vice-commander of the Dragon's Courage Legion, stepped out of the ranks and cupped his fists respectfully. Your Highness, Wei Chou has something to say. Qin Yin couldn't help but smile. She raised her hand and said, General Wei, please speak your mind. Wei Chou said, the Heavenly Book Pavilion is the Empire's Heavenly Book Realm's Mount Tai and the North Star of the Empire. It is a place that accepts famous scholars from all over the world. However, the Heavenly Book Pavilion has always existed for the Zetian Palace. Everyone in the Heavenly Book Pavilion is your Highness's subjects. They receive the Emperor's salary and the Emperor's grace. Writing a heavenly book is also the subject's business. If someone were to threaten your Highness with a mere low-grade heavenly book and force your Highness to be alone with him, this general believes that such a person has evil intentions and should be executed for overstepping his boundaries. As he spoke, Wei Chou knelt on one knee and said, this subject requests the golden armored warriors to go to the palace and drag Lu Feng out to be beheaded in public. Lin Muyu was stunned. She felt extremely gratified in her heart. She didn't expect Wei Chou to say such words that no one could refute. Situ Sin touched his nose and laughed in a low voice. Wei Chou, this brat really has guts. What he said simply touched the bottom of my heart. Situ Shui chuckled and didn't say anything. Qin Yin was slightly stunned. Although she agreed with what Wei Chou said, she was the emperor after all. If she really killed Lu Feng, wouldn't it disappoint the hearts of the scholars in the world? Thus she looked at Tang Xiaoxi for help. Tang Xiaoxi smiled as she stood up and said, although Lu Feng's words and actions have overstepped his boundaries, the Empress is benevolent and won't fuss over it with you. Lu Feng listened to the announcement. Because you wrote a heavenly book, the Empress will confer you the title of Marquis when you will be rewarded with 5,000 gold coins. Lu Feng's body trembled. He was somewhat unwilling, but there was nothing he could do. He could only respectfully say, Lu Feng accepts the decree. I thank the Empress for her kindness. Tang Xiaoxi looked at Lu Feng from afar. A trace of displeasure flashed past her beautiful eyes as she smiled and said, Lu Feng, you have to remember that Her Highness is your subject and ruler. Her Highness will only be alone with the man she likes. It's a pity that it's not you. Don't force it. Otherwise, the crime of deceiving the ruler will exterminate your entire family. Do you understand? I will remember. Lu Feng nodded repeatedly. At the side, the Lu residence's patriarch Lu Yan, the eldest son Lu Heng, and the youngest daughter Lu Ying turned pale. No one expected that writing a low-grade heavenly book would cause such big trouble. Lin Muyu finally understood the painstaking efforts of Qin Yin to confer Tang Xiaoxi the title of Fu Guojunju. The Empress was benevolent and some words couldn't be said. Therefore it was up to Tang Xiaoxi to say it. One played the good cop and the other played the bad cop. This was the only way to win the hearts of the people. Unknowingly, Qin Yin's imperial skills seemed to have improved. Chapter 559. Creak. After pushing open the door, he saw a group of patrolmen standing there with serious expressions and swords in their hands. There were even 3 commanders among them. Xiaohan was an astute person. He said, Lord Jinggu, are you trying to imprison me? One of the commanders cupped his fists and said with a smile, we are only following orders. Please forgive us, Lord Xiaohan. I believe that Lord Abbot has his reasons. Please rest here for 3 to 5 days and you should be released from your confinement. 3 to 5 days? Xiaohan frowned. Do you know that in 3 to 5 days Songnan province will change? Get out of the way, I want to see Jinggu. Xiao Han. The commander's face was filled with rage as he said, don't forget who you are. A mere patrol commander dares to address the Lord by his name? Do you think you can act arrogant just because you're capable in handling cases? Stay here or don't blame us for being impolite. We are colleagues, we don't want to have a falling out with you. Xiao Han raised his eyebrows and suppressed his anger with difficulty. He cupped his fists respectfully and said, Commander Fong, I would like to ask you to do something for me. What is it? Speak. Fong Zun looked arrogant. I want you to help me pass a message to the Valiant Dragon Legion. Tell them that I, Xiao Han, have something important to tell Commander Yu. You know people from the army? Fong Zun couldn't help but sneer. It's too late. Master has already said that you are not allowed to interact with anyone from the outside world. Xiao Han, just give up and stay here. Don't try to play any tricks or you'll just be asking for trouble. Xiao Han clenched his fists, fighting chi swirled around his body and a gust of wind blew. Xiao Han. Fong Zun said cautiously, are you trying to rebel? The group of patrolmen pulled out their swords. Some even pointed their crossbows at Xiao Han as if they were facing a great enemy. As long as Xiao Han made a move, they would definitely attack. After all, Xiao Han was the #1 arrester of the Fire Sparrow Division, so they had to be on guard. Sigh. Xiao Han sighed and loosened his fist. His eyes were filled with disappointment as he looked at the crowd and said, You are all patrolmen of the Fire Sparrow Division, yet you can't tell right from wrong. What a misfortune for the Empire. Fine, all of you can stand guard outside. Xiao Han sat in his room in a daze. His heart was filled with a myriad of emotions. Unwillingness and indignation filled his heart. Not long after, a chirp 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 sound suddenly came from the windowsill. A small fiery red sparrow appeared on the windowsill. Suddenly Xiao Han was startled and became overjoyed. Fire sparrow, great, it's a fire sparrow. The fire sparrow was a type of bird that could track its target by smell. It was precisely because of this special ability that the Empire had regarded it as a great help in investigating cases for thousands of years. It was also because of this that the Fire Sparrow Division was called the Fire Sparrow Division. However, the number of fire sparrows was too small. There were no more than 20 fire sparrows in the entire Longyan city. The price of a Fire Sparrow Division was so high that a single Fire Sparrow Division was sold for 100,000 Jinin coins. As the #1 arrester of the Fire Sparrow Division, Xiao Han was naturally given a fire sparrow. This fire sparrow would come to find Xiao Han once a day, and the rest of the time, it would roam outside looking for food, maintaining its natural wild nature. Huiyu, you're here, come quickly. Xiao Han raised his arm and the fire sparrow immediately flew and landed on Xiao Han's arm, jumping up and down happily. Xiao Han had raised this fire sparrow for 3 years and they had a good relationship. Now that Xiao Han was imprisoned here, seeing the fire sparrow again made him feel especially moved. He thought for a moment, then thought about what he had on him. There was a faint smell of alcohol on his palm. It was the smell that Zhang Wei had left behind last night. So Xiao Han moved his palm in front of the fire sparrow and said, Huiyu, smell this. Chirp chirp. The fire sparrow raised its small head, sniffed and chirped. Help me pass a letter to him. Xiao Han turned around, took out a brush and ink and wrote on a small piece of paper. Master Zhang Wei, I am the Fire Sparrow Division's Xiao Han that you saved last night. Please inform Commander Yu of the Dragon's Courage Legion that Tang Lu and Tang Tian's secret meeting last night was discovered by me. They were planning to assassinate Songnan Province's chief executive, Su Jiantao. Xiao Han has already been imprisoned in the Fire Sparrow Division. I hope Master Zhang Wei can help me pass the message. After writing a few short sentences, he tied it to the fire sparrow's leg. This was Xiao Han's only hope. He gently caressed the fire sparrow's feathers and said in a low voice, Huiyu, the future of Songnan province depends on you. Go. Chirp chirp. The fire sparrow leaped up and flew out at a strange angle. Outside the window, a few Fire Sparrow Division patrolmen watched as the fire sparrow flew out. One of them immediately raised his crossbow and said, Xiao Han wants to use the fire sparrow to send a message outside? Bastard. However, a commander-level patrolman quickly pressed down on his crossbow and said, You're crazy, you even dare to kill the fire sparrow. Stop right now, do you know the value of this fire sparrow? But Master Abbot said that we can't let Xiao Han divulge any information. Damn it, just pretend you didn't see this fire sparrow and everything will be fine. Yes, master. The commander raised his head to look at the direction in which the fire sparrow had flown and couldn't help but sigh. He turned to his subordinates and said, "You all didn't see anything. If anyone dares to divulge this matter, I will definitely exterminate his entire family." All the patrolmen cupped their fists and said, "Yes, master." In the main camp of the Imperial Army, the shouts of training pierced through the sky. Rows and rows of cavalry galloped back and forth, while the infantry and shield soldiers in the training field rapidly changed their battle formations. On the viewing platform, Feng Jixing, Zhang Wei, Luo Yu and the other generals squinted their eyes at the flying dust in front of them. Although they couldn't clearly see the changes in the battle formation, they all became complacent. The next time we meet the demons, how many armor demons can these 40,000 Imperial army stop? Luo Yu asked with a smile. Feng Jixing held the hilt of his saber and said with a smile, "If it was before the battle at Wildfire Plains, I have the confidence to resist 30,000 armor demons with this Imperial army. However, after the battle at Wildfire Plains, Qian Feng is also training his combat skills. At the same time he has also equipped the armor demons with better weapons, armors and shields. It would be good if this Imperial army could resist 20,000 armor demons." Zhang Wei was stunned. Our Imperial army's training and battle strength can be counted as one of the best in the Empire, but this can only stop 20,000 demons? Never underestimate the battle strength of the armor demons, Feng Jixing said after taking a deep look at him. At this moment, a bird's chirp suddenly came from the sky. A fiery red bird followed a special scent and flew toward Zhang Wei. It actually landed on Zhang Wei's shoulder and jumped up and down. "Damn, even a sparrow dares to bully me." Zhang Wei raised his hand and slapped it, saying, "Little bird, you've found the wrong person. My bird is much more majestic than you. Hurry up and scram or else I'll use you to accompany my wine tonight." "Wait." Feng Jixing hurriedly stopped and said, "Idiot, can't you see that this is a fire sparrow? It's the Fire Sparrow Division's Fire Sparrow Division. There's a letter tied to its leg. Hurry up and take it down to take a look." "Yes, Commander." Luo Yu went forward and grabbed the fire sparrow. After taking off the letter, the fire sparrow flew away. Luo Yu then respectfully handed the letter to Feng Jixing. Feng Jixing looked at the letter and the more he read, the uglier his expression became. He raised his head and looked at Zhang Wei. "You went to the red light district to drink again last night?" Zhang Wei was sweating profusely. He did not know how to explain himself. Feng Jixing glared at him and said, "I'll deal with you later." "Bastard Zhang Wei, did you save a Fire Sparrow Division commander called Xiao Han last night?" "I think so." Zhang Wei scratched his head and said. "Then who was the one who chased after Xiao Han last night?" "I think it was someone with a flame imprint. Maybe someone from the Tang family," Zhang Wei said. "Please forgive me, Commander. I didn't dare to mention this to you because I was afraid you would scold me again." Feng Jixing opened his throat and roared, "You don't know what's good for you. Tell me when I don't scold you." "Reporting to Commander, you scold him every day," Luo Yu said respectfully. Feng Jixing gritted his teeth and walked down the observation platform. He said, "Come, follow me to the Longdan army camp to see you." "Yes." Rustle, rustle, rustle. The spiritual pen was waving slowly on a long sword, writing an obscure divine text. Lin Muyu's forehead was full of sweat. His handsome face was full of indignation. If Lu Feng could write a heavenly book, then he could also write a heavenly book if he had the right time and place. On the side, Chu Yao was brewing tea. She said with a smile, "You don't rush. Write slowly. I heard that the heavenly book is about the state of mind. If you rush it, then it probably won't be a book." Sure enough, just as Chu Yao said, the heavenly book was soon written to waste. Lin Muyu said helplessly, "Sister Chu Yao is right. Rushing things won't work. It's not even a heavenly book." Chu Yao laughed. "All right, let's have a cup of tea first." "Okay." After putting down the spiritual pen, Lin Muyu took the teacup from Chu Yao's hand. A fragrant aroma lingered. He couldn't help but smile. "I haven't had tea and chat with Sister Chu Yao for a long time. You know that too." Chu Yao glanced at him, held the teacup and took a sip of tea quietly and elegantly. As time passed, Chu Yao's cultivation became more and more profound, and her mature feminine charm became stronger. At this time she had grown into a mature, graceful and beautiful stunner. It was no wonder that so many aristocratic children in the capital broke the threshold of the spiritual medicine department to seek marriage. If it wasn't for Chu Yao's noble status as the great deacon of the spiritual medicine department, she might not have been able to withstand the pressure from various forces. Dong dong dong. Wei Chao's voice came from outside. Master, General Feng wants to see you for something important. Ignoring the fact that the tea was too hot, Lin Muyu gulped it down. It was so hot that her tongue stuck out. What are you doing? Chu Yao said with a smile. I feel that I can't drink this tea when Brother Feng comes, so I have to drink a cup first. After all, it's rare to have a chance to drink tea made by Sister Chu Yao. At this time, Feng Jixing stepped into the side hall. He sniffed and said, "What a fragrant tea. It seems that the beauty Chu Yao must be here." Chapter 560. As expected, when Lin Muyu saw Xiao Han's letter, she knew that she would not be able to drink the tea. Brother Feng, do you think Xiao Han can be trusted? Xiao Han has already been imprisoned by the Fire Sparrow Division. As for whether he can be trusted or not, we'll have to wait until Su Jiantao is assassinated by the demons. Lin Muyu stood up and put on her armor. She picked up her sword and said, Sister Chu Yao, I'll have tea with you when I get back. I'll be heading out first. Chu Yao nodded. You two be careful. After leaving the side hall, Situ Sin, Situ Shui, Wei Chou and Fingxi, the four generals, cupped their fists and waited. My lord, we are at your command. Gather 5,000 cavalrymen and follow me to the Fire Sparrow Division. Yes, my lord. Wei Chou took the token and went to gather the troops. Feng Jixing squinted his eyes and smiled. Are you being impulsive again? The Fire Sparrow Division is on the same level as the 3 palaces and 6 divisions. If you send troops to the Fire Sparrow Division without permission, it'll be easy for people to gossip. Tang Lan and Su Muyun are waiting for you to make a mistake so that they can remove the 3 stars from your collar. Lin Muyu smiled. The Empire's military movements and food supplies are all under the control of the demons. 14 of the generals guarding the steel walls have been assassinated in the past few months. I really don't know how many demons have infiltrated Lanyan City. The Fire Sparrow Division just sits there and does nothing. I've been waiting for this opportunity for too long. Don't tell me you want to. Feng Jixing could not help but take a deep breath. Do you want to get rid of the Fire Sparrow Division? No. Lin Muyu shook her head. I just want to get rid of the abbot of the Fire Sparrow Division, Jinggu. He's in cahoots with Tang Lan. He'll only be a scourge if we let him live. Feng Jixing muttered. That's fine. I'll go with you. All right. Not long after, the army was assembled. 5,000 soldiers of the Longdan army camp were waiting to set off. Under Lin Muyu's command, they rushed out of the camp and went straight to Flamingo. It had been a long time since there had been such a battle on Skyspan Street. It was as if a war was about to break out. Outside the Fire Sparrow Division, the dozen or so patrolmen did not even have time to react before they saw the entire Fire Sparrow Division surrounded by the cavalry of the Longdan army camp. The tense atmosphere almost scared the wits out of them. After all, most of the patrolmen in the Fire Sparrow Division were ordinary citizens, not soldiers. When Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing dismounted, the group of patrolmen knelt down and said, Greetings, Marquises. Get out of my way. Lin Muyu said calmly and entered the Fire Sparrow Division with her sword in hand. Behind her, Wei Chou, Situ Sin, Situ Shui and the rest led the troops and rushed in. In the blink of an eye, the inner courtyard of the Fire Sparrow Division was under control. What's wrong? What's wrong? A group of patrolmen rushed out of the barracks and looked at the Imperial Army outside in shock. Lin Muyu raised her hand and said, Men, take away their weapons. Wei Chou gestured with his hand and immediately, a group of brave Dragon Battalion soldiers with decent cultivation stepped forward and disarmed the hundreds of Fire Sparrow Division patrolmen. Only when these Fire Sparrow Division patrolmen were empty-handed, did Abbot Jinggu's voice finally come from the depths of the courtyard. So it's Commander Yu, this old man Jinggu has come to greet you. Jinggu was dressed in the uniform of the abbot of the Fire Sparrow Division with a sword hanging from his waist. He led dozens of patrolmen out, many of whom were commanders. Oh. Looking at the disarmed patrolmen in the courtyard, Jinggu couldn't help but be shocked. Commander Yu, Commander Feng, what is the meaning of this? Why did you rush into the Fire Sparrow Division and disarm my people? Lin Mu smiled. I suspect that someone in the Fire Sparrow division is colluding with the demons, so I came to investigate. Master Jinggu, I hope you will cooperate with my investigation. Tell your men to put down their weapons. What did you say? In the crowd, the commander of the patrolmen Fong Zun had a face full of anger. Marquis Yunling, our Fire Sparrow division is on the same level as the Imperial Army. What right do you have to trespass and disarm us? Lin Muyu smiled. Because I have a strong army. What, are you not satisfied? Her words were very arrogant, leaving Fong Zun speechless. Wei Chou was a little impatient. Men, disarm all their weapons. If there is any resistance, kill them on the spot. A group of Longdan army camp soldiers all drew their longbows. The white diamond arrows glowed in the sunlight. Everyone knew about the strength of the Longdan army camp. Jinggu naturally did not want the people he had worked so hard to recruit to die under the arrows of the Longdan army camp. He sighed helplessly. Everyone put down your weapons and do not resist. Her Highness will give justice to the Fire Sparrow Division's abbot. The world is clear and bright, and we will not allow anyone to act recklessly. Lin Muyu smiled faintly, raised her hand and ordered her men to collect the weapons of the Fire Sparrow Division patrolmen. Her eyes turned cold as she said, Your Excellency Jinggu, please take me to your patrol commander, Xiao Han. Xiao Han. Jinggu's body trembled. He knew that things were not as simple as he had thought. If Lin Muyu knew of Xiao Han's existence, then it meant that he already knew about Tang Lu and Tang Tian's secret meeting with the demon race. It would also implicate Jinggu's bribery. Then, something big had happened. At that moment, Jinggu felt that breathing had become very difficult. In the backyard, a group of patrolmen were quickly disarmed. When the door of one of the rooms in the backyard opened, Xiao Han walked out with a face full of shock. He saw Jinggu standing there with an ashen face. All of the patrolmen from the Fire Sparrow Division had been disarmed, and 2 young generals of the Empire with 3-star military ranks were standing there. The only 2 people who had survived the legendary wind, rain, thunder and lightning were standing right in front of him. Xiao Han stepped forward and suddenly knelt on one knee. Xiao Han greets the 2 commanders. Rise. Lin Muyu took out Xiao Han's letter and asked, Xiao Han, everything you wrote, is it true? Absolutely true. Xiao Han said in a deep voice. If there is a single lie, I am willing to die 1,000 times. Good. Lin Muyu turned to look at Jinggu. Master Jinggu, I have a question for you. What is it? Jinggu muttered. Why did you imprison Xiao Han? He is the #1 constable of Fire Sparrow Division. Logically speaking, he should be protected in every possible way. Why did you imprison your subordinate's beloved general? Jinggu's expression was aghast. Jinggu has no respect for his superiors. He is audacious. As the abbot of Fire Sparrow Division, I naturally have to punish him. Is that so? Did Jinggu tell you about the demon race's plot to assassinate Songnan Province's Su Jiantao? This? Lin Muyu's words were like swords, causing Jinggu to break out in cold sweat uncontrollably. After a few seconds he stammered and said, Yes, but I don't think he has any solid evidence. Slandering Marquis of North Ridge and Marquis of West Ridge is already a capital offense, so I imprisoned him. Is that so? Lin Muyu could not help but laugh. Men, take control of Fire Sparrow Division. Thoroughly investigate all the files that Master Jinggu is in charge of. I want to see if Fire Sparrow Division is just a small yamen. As she spoke, Lin Muyu looked at Xiao Han. Xiao Han, you should know more about Jinggu's misdeeds than anyone else. I will leave this matter to you. Xiao Han was startled and said, Commander Yu, please find someone else. Why? Xiao Han cupped his fists and said, Xiao Han told Milord about the demon race's conspiracy. This is a righteous cause, and Milord Jinggu has always trusted Xiao Han. If this subordinate personally investigated Milord Jinggu, how would this be different from an ungrateful villain? This is a small matter. That is why Xiao Han refused. Feng Jixing could not help but laugh. What a loyal and righteous Xiao Han. All right, I'll let you handle this matter personally. Lin Muyu stared at him with hidden bitterness. There were so many files in Fire Sparrow Division. If he had to go through them one by one, it would be better to kill him with a knife. So he waved his hand and said, Wei Chou Situ Shui, the 2 of you will investigate this matter. In addition, send a letter to inform Su Jiantao not to go out in the near future. Even if he goes out, he must bring a large number of troops with him. Let him be careful. Yes. Wei Chou cupped his fists and turned to write the letter. Lin Muyu said, General Sin, choose 20 experts from the Longdan army camp. Let them immediately go to the Five Valleys city to be Su Jiantao's bodyguards. Nothing must happen to Su Jiantao. In addition, let them bring 5 earth books with them to prevent any accidents. Yes. Lin Muyu's eyes were cold. She glanced at Xinggu and said, Xinggu, seeing that you and the late Grand Deacon Lei Hong were old acquaintances, I will not make things difficult for you. I only hope that you will be honest with me, and I will plead with His Highness to spare your life. Xinggu said, I have never colluded with the demons. Heaven and earth can testify to this. But you connived. Lin Muyu's voice was very cold. Men, put Xinggu under house arrest. Xiao Han will be in charge of all the daily affairs of Fire Sparrow Division. Wei Chou and Situ Shui stay behind to check the files. I will go to Zetian Temple to ask for an edict. From now on, Xiao Han will be the new abbot of Fire Sparrow Division. I hope that you will fulfill your duties and serve the Empire. Return peace to Yanlan City. Xiao Han trembled. He cupped his fists and said, Subordinate Xiao Han, will not disappoint Commander Yu. Originally, it was not appropriate for a commander of the Empire to say such words. However, Lin Muyu's identity was too special. He was the foster son of the former emperor and the foster brother of the Empress. He did indeed have the ability to control Fire Sparrow Division. Just as Feng Jixing often said, you will give Xiao Yin some pillow talk. What can't he do? Only Feng Jixing dared to say such words. In the afternoon, Qin Yin personally issued an edict to temporarily remove Xinggu from the position of abbot of Fire Sparrow Division. Xiao Han was appointed as the new abbot of Fire Sparrow Division. At the same time, he was to immediately investigate the matter of the demon spies. The news spread quickly. It was the turn of the people of the Seven Seas Palace to be restless. Fire Sparrow Division was investigated and Xinggu was imprisoned.